The little girl's feet were bleeding through the dust on Highway 77, her designer dress torn and filthy, clutching a teddy bear like it was the only thing keeping her alive. Darius Bennett had seen a lot in his 32 years: poverty, loss, racism, grief, but he'd never seen a child that small walking alone on a scorching Oklahoma highway at 3 in the afternoon. He pulled over. That single decision would shatter everything he thought he knew about his quiet life, expose him to dangers he never imagined, and connect him to a woman whose name could move markets and governments. But first, he had to get this terrified little girl to safety. If you're watching from anywhere in the world, drop your city in the comments below and hit that like button. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let's dive in. The heat shimmered off the asphalt like a living thing, distorting the horizon into wavering mirages of water that didn't exist. Darius Bennett had the windows down in his 15-year-old Ford pickup because the air conditioning had given up the ghost 2 summers ago, and he'd been too busy fixing everyone else's vehicles to bother with his own. The radio crackled with static between stations, and his thoughts were already at home. Malik would be getting off the school bus in 20 minutes, and Darius had promised they'd work on his science project tonight. Then he saw her. At first, his brain couldn't process what his eyes were reporting. A small figure, maybe 3.5 feet tall, stumbling along the shoulder of the highway. The temperature was pushing 98 degrees. There were no houses for miles, no broken-down cars, no adults anywhere in sight. Darius's foot came off the gas pedal instinctively. As he got closer, the details emerged like a photograph developing in slow motion. She couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old. Her skin was a deep brown, covered in a film of dust and sweat. The dress she wore had probably been beautiful once, pale pink with delicate embroidery, but now it hung in tatters, one sleeve completely torn away. Her hair, which someone had carefully styled into neat braids with colorful beads, was coming undone, loose strands plastered to her forehead and cheeks. But it was her feet that made Darius's heart clench. She was barefoot, completely barefoot on sun-scorched asphalt that had to be hot enough to fry an egg. He could see dark stains on the pavement behind her, blood mixed with dust. She was limping badly, favoring her left foot, and in her arms she clutched a stuffed teddy bear that looked as worn and exhausted as she did. Darius pulled onto the shoulder 50 feet ahead of her and killed the engine. His hands were shaking as he opened the door. Every instinct screamed that something was terribly, dangerously wrong. The little girl stopped walking when she saw him. Her eyes went wide, and she took an unsteady step backward, wincing as her damaged foot touched the ground. Darius raised both hands, palms out, and stayed next to his truck. "Hey there, sweetheart," he called out, keeping his voice as gentle as he could manage. "My name's Darius. Are you okay? Are you hurt?" She didn't answer, just stared at him with those huge, terrified eyes, squeezing the teddy bear tighter against her chest. Darius crouched down, making himself smaller, less threatening. "I'm not going to hurt you, baby girl, I promise. But you're bleeding, and it's real hot out here. Do you know where your mama is?" At the word mama, something broke in the child's face. Her lower lip started trembling, and tears began cutting clean tracks through the dust on her cheeks. "I can't find her," she whispered, so quietly Darius almost missed it. "I looked and looked, but I can't find my mama." Okay, Darius said, his own throat tightening. "That's okay. We're going to find her, all right? But first, we need to get you out of this heat. Can you tell me your name?" The girl hesitated, glancing down the empty highway behind her as if expecting someone to appear. When no one did, she looked back at Darius with an expression that was far too old for her young face. The look of someone who'd been forced to make impossible decisions. "Amara," she said finally. "My name is Amara." "That's a beautiful name," Darius told her, meaning it. "Amara, I have a son about your age named Malik. We live just a few miles from here. What I'd like to do is get you someplace cool, get some water in you, and take a look at those feet. Then we can call someone to help find your mama. Does that sound okay?" Amara studied him for a long moment. Darius didn't move, didn't push, just let her make her own choice. He recognized that look. He saw it in the mirror sometimes, the wariness of someone who'd learned the hard way that not everyone who smiled could be trusted. Finally, Amara nodded. "Okay," she said in that small, scared voice. "But I need to bring Bear." Of course, Darius said, standing slowly. Bear's definitely invited. He walked toward her carefully, watching for any sign she might bolt. When he got close enough, he crouched down again and held out his hand. Amara shifted Bear to one arm and reached out with her free hand. Her small fingers were sticky with sweat and grime, and they trembled as they closed around his. I'm going to pick you up now, Darius warned. Keep you off those hurt feet. Is that all right? Amara nodded, and Darius gently lifted her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, light as air despite being close to Malik's age. She immediately buried her face against his shoulder, and he could feel her body shaking with silent sobs. You're safe now, baby girl, he murmured, carrying her toward the truck. I got you. You're safe. As he settled her into the passenger seat and cranked up the engine, Darius pulled out his phone, intending to call the police immediately. No signal. Of course not. This stretch of highway was notorious for dead zones. He'd have to wait until he got closer to town. He glanced over at Amara. She'd pulled her knees up to her chest, still clutching Bear, staring straight ahead with those haunted eyes. You like music? Darius asked, trying to distract her from whatever horrors were playing behind those eyes. She nodded slightly. He fumbled with the radio until he found a station playing something upbeat and harmless. As they drove, Darius kept sneaking glances at the little girl beside him. That dress, even ruined, he could tell it was expensive. Designer, probably. The beads in her hair were real stone, not plastic. And there was something else. Something he couldn't quite put his finger on. A quality to the way she held herself that spoke of careful upbringing, of manners and expectations. This wasn't some neglected child from a troubled home. This was someone's precious daughter, someone who had resources, who would be looking for her. So why was she alone on a highway in the middle of nowhere? Amara, he said carefully, can you tell me what happened? How did you end up out here? She was quiet for so long he thought she wasn't going to answer. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, she said, The bad man took me. From my room. At night. Darius's blood ran cold. A bad man took you from your room? When was this, sweetheart? I don't know. Her voice was getting smaller. It was dark for a long time. He kept me in a room with no windows. Miss Sarah tried to stop him, but her voice broke. There was a loud noise, and Miss Sarah fell down, and she wouldn't wake up. Darius's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Kidnapping. Possibly murder. This child had witnessed something no kid should ever see. But you got away? He prompted gently. The bad man had to go somewhere. He locked the door, but there was a window. A small one, up high. I climbed on boxes and got out. Pride crept into her voice for just a moment. I ran and ran. Then I saw the big road and thought maybe someone would help me. You did good, Amara. You did so good. Darius blinked rapidly, fighting back his own tears. We're going to get you home to your mama, I promise. They reached the outskirts of Millbrook 15 minutes later. Population 3,847, the faded sign announced proudly. Darius lived on the south side of town, in a small house he'd bought for cash after years of saving every spare dollar. It wasn't much, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a living room that doubled as a dining room, but it was his. And more importantly, it was Malik's, a place of their own, where no landlord could threaten eviction, where his son had stability. The school bus was just pulling away from the stop when Darius turned onto Oak Street. Malik stood on the sidewalk, his backpack almost as big as he was, waving at a friend. When he spotted his dad's truck, his face lit up with that smile that never failed to crack open Darius's chest. Then Malik saw Amara, and his expression shifted to confusion. Darius parked and quickly got out, coming around to the passenger side. Malik, come here for a second, son. Malik dropped his backpack on the lawn and jogged over, curiosity written all over his 6-year-old face. Dad? Who's that? This is Amara, Darius said quietly, carefully lifting the little girl out of the truck. She's had a real bad day and needs our help. Can you be kind and gentle with her? Malik's eyes went round as he took in Amara's torn dress and bloody feet. Did somebody hurt her? Yeah, buddy, somebody did. But she's safe now, and we're going to take care of her, okay? Okay. Malik stepped closer, peering up at Amara with solemn brown eyes that were identical to his father's. Hi, Amara. I'm Malik. Do you like Legos? I have a lot of Legos. For the first time since Darius found her, something like a smile flickered across Amara's face. I like Legos, she whispered. Cool. After Dad fixes your feet, maybe we can build something. Malik looked at his father for permission. Maybe, Darius agreed, but first, let's get inside. The house was modest but clean, exactly as Darius had left it that morning. Photos covered the walls, mostly of Malik at various ages, but also a few of Darius and his late wife Jasmine from happier times. Her smile beamed down at them from above the couch, frozen forever at 27, 3 years before an aggressive cancer had stolen her away. Darius carried Amara to the bathroom and set her gently on the closed toilet lid. Malik, can you get the first aid kit from under the kitchen sink? On it! Malik thundered off with the enthusiasm only a 6-year-old could muster. Darius knelt in front of Amara. I'm going to need to clean those feet, sweetheart. It might sting a little bit. Can you be brave for me? Amara nodded, her jaw set with determination that reminded him achingly of Malik. Malik returned with the white plastic box, and Darius went to work. The damage was worse than he'd thought. The soles of both feet had multiple lacerations, some deep enough to still be bleeding sluggishly. Blisters had formed and burst. Bits of gravel and asphalt were embedded in the raw flesh. This might hurt, baby girl, he warned, dampening a clean cloth with warm water. Squeeze Bear real tight, okay? Amara buried her face in the stuffed animal's worn fur as Darius began cleaning the wounds. She whimpered, but didn't pull away, her little body rigid with the effort of staying still. Malik hovered nearby, his face creased with worry. You're doing great, Amara, Malik said earnestly. You're way braver than me. I cried for like an hour when I skinned my knee last month. Despite her pain, Amara managed a small, wet laugh. 20 minutes later, both feet were clean, treated with antibiotic ointment, and wrapped in soft gauze. Darius had done his best, but she really needed to see a doctor, get a tetanus shot, maybe antibiotics. Okay, kiddo, he said, carefully helping her down from the toilet. Let's get you something to eat and drink, and then I'm going to make some phone calls. Malik, can you set up a spot on the couch for Amara? Can she watch TV with me? Sure, buddy. Just keep it on something kid-friendly. While Malik got Amara settled on the couch with pillows and a light blanket, she was shivering despite the heat, shocked probably. Darius went to the kitchen and pulled out his phone. Full signal now. He dialed 911, his heart hammering. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Darius Bennett. I'm at 247 Oak Street in Millbrook. About an hour ago, I found a little girl walking alone on Highway 77. She's maybe 5 or 6 years old, says her name is Amara. She's got injuries to her feet, and she told me someone kidnapped her from her room, said she witnessed an assault on someone named Miss Sarah. There was a sharp intake of breath on the other end. Sir, can you describe the child? Darius did, providing every detail he could remember. The dispatcher's voice became urgent. Sir, I need you to keep that child with you. Do not let her out of your sight. Units are en route to your location now. Do you understand? Yes, ma'am, but Sheriff Davis will explain everything when he arrives. He's 4 minutes out. The line went dead. Darius stood in his kitchen, phone in hand, ice forming in his gut. The dispatcher had recognized Amara's description immediately, which meant this wasn't just some local incident. This was something big. He returned to the living room. Malik had found a cartoon, something bright and silly, and Amara was watching it with glassy eyes, bare tucked under her chin. She looked so small on the couch, so fragile, like a strong wind might carry her away. Amara, Darius said gently, sitting down on the coffee table so he could look at her at eye level. The police are coming to talk to us, okay? They're going to help find your mama. Fear flashed across her face. Are they going to take me away? They're going to make sure you get home safe, Darius said carefully. I'm going to be right here with you the whole time, I promise. What if the bad man comes back? He won't get to you. I won't let him. Darius reached out and took her small hand. You're safe here, Amara. I give you my word. She searched his face for a long moment, then nodded, seeming to accept this. Less than 3 minutes later, the quiet of Oak Street was shattered by sirens. Through the front window, Darius watched as patrol cars converged on his house from both directions. Sheriff Earl Davis, a thick-bellied white man in his late 50s whom Darius knew from bringing his cruiser in for oil changes, emerged from the first vehicle with an expression Darius had never seen on the usually jovial man's face. Fear. And something else. Awe. Darius opened the door before Davis could knock. "Sheriff?" "Darius." Davis's eyes moved past him to where Amara sat on the couch. His face went pale. "Sweet Jesus, it's really her." "You know who she is?" Davis pulled his gaze back to Darius. "Son, you got any idea who you just pulled off that highway?" "She said her name is Amara." "Amara Hayes," Davis interrupted. "Daughter of Nia Hayes. The Nia Hayes." The name hit Darius like a physical blow. Even in a small town like Millbrook, even for someone who didn't follow business news or tech industry gossip, that name meant something. Nia Hayes, 30 years old, billionaire, CEO and founder of Haven Technologies, a company that had revolutionized cloud security and data privacy. She'd been on magazine covers, interviewed on national news programs. 6 months ago, her husband, some kind of finance executive, had died under mysterious circumstances. The tabloids had gone wild with speculation. And 3 days ago, according to the news reports Darius had heard on the radio, her daughter had vanished. The FBI was involved. The manhunt had gone national. Theories ranged from corporate espionage to ransom to something darker. And somehow, impossibly, that little girl was now sitting on Darius Bennett's secondhand couch, watching cartoons with his son. "I need to call this in," Davis said, already pulling out his phone. "Darius, I need you to not touch anything else. Don't wash any clothes. Don't even use the bathroom if you can help it. This is now a federal crime scene." "Crime scene?" Malik piped up from the couch, alarm in his voice. "It's okay, buddy," Darius said quickly. "The sheriff just needs to look around, make sure everything's safe." But it wasn't okay. In the next hour, Darius's quiet street transformed into something out of a movie. Federal agents in dark suits arrived in black SUVs. A forensics team showed up and began documenting everything, taking photos of the truck, of the bathroom, of Amara's bloody footprints on the linoleum. Through it all, Darius stayed close to Amara. He'd made her a promise, and he intended to keep it. She clung to his hand, terrified by all the strangers invading the space, and he kept up a steady stream of quiet reassurance. "What you did was heroic," one of the FBI agents told him, a stern-faced black woman named Agent Morrison. "Most people would have driven right past. You saved that little girl's life." "I just did what anybody would do," Darius said. "No," Morrison replied, her expression softening slightly. "You did what you would do. There's a difference." A child psychologist arrived to interview Amara, and Darius reluctantly let her go, watching through the kitchen doorway as the woman, young, patient, kind-faced, coaxed information from the traumatized child. Malik tugged on his father's shirt. "Dad, is Amara going to be okay?" "I think so, son." "Are they going to find the bad man?" "Yeah, buddy, they're going to find him." "Good." Malik's voice was fierce. "Because nobody should hurt kids. That's like the worst thing ever." Darius pulled his son into a hug, his heart swelling with pride and breaking at the same time. Malik had lost his mother at age 3. He knew what loss tasted like, what fear felt like. And still, his first instinct was compassion. Jasmine would have been so proud. The sun was setting when Agent Morrison approached Darius again. "Her mother's been notified. She's flying in now, had to charter a plane, but she'll be here in a few hours." "Can Amara stay here until then?" Darius asked. "It might be easier for her being somewhere calm instead of at a police station." Morrison considered this. "We'd need someone here at all times, and you'd need to give a full statement." "Whatever you need." So Darius told them everything, finding Amara on the highway, their conversation, what she'd said about the kidnapping, and Miss Sarah. The agents recorded it all, their faces grim. Around 8 o'clock, Malik started yawning. Normally he'd be getting ready for bed, but there was nothing normal about this day. "Can Amara sleep in my room?" Malik asked. Darius looked at Agent Morrison, who nodded. "I don't see why not. We'll have agents posted outside." So Darius helped both kids get ready for bed. Malik insisted on giving Amara one of his favorite stuffed animals, a dinosaur named Chomper, to keep Bear company. He also offered her the bed while he took the sleeping bag on the floor. "No," Amara said, her voice small but firm. "We can share, like a sleepover." Malik's face lit up. "Really? I never had a sleepover before." They settled into the twin bed together, two small children who'd both seen too much, finding comfort in each other's presence. Darius read them a story, one of Malik's favorites, about a brave mouse who saved his kingdom, and by the final page, both sets of eyes were drooping. "Darius?" Amara whispered as he turned off the light. "Yes, sweetheart? Thank you for not leaving me there, on the road." His throat closed up. "You don't have to thank me for that, baby girl." "Miss Sarah used to say that sometimes angels look like regular people, that you don't always know when someone's going to save you." Her voice was getting drowsy. "I think maybe you're an angel." Darius had to step out of the room before she could see the tears streaming down his face. He stood in the hallway, one hand braced against the wall, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. An angel. Him. A broke mechanic in a town nobody'd heard of, barely keeping his head above water most months, still grieving a wife who'd been gone for 3 years. But he'd been in the right place at the right time. He'd made the choice to stop, to help, to care. Sometimes that was all it took to change everything. Agent Morrison found him there a few minutes later. "You okay?" Darius wiped his face. "Yeah, it's been a long day. It's about to get longer. Mrs. Hayes will be here within the hour. She's intense from what I understand. Brilliant, driven, protective as hell of her daughter. This is going to be overwhelming for her." "I can't even imagine," Darius said quietly. "If someone took Malik—" He couldn't finish the sentence. The thought alone was unbearable. Morrison nodded in understanding. "You're a good father, Mr. Bennett. I can tell, and you were exactly the right person to find Amara today." At 9:47 p.m., the street outside lit up like a runway as a convoy of vehicles arrived. More SUVs, these ones even more expensive-looking than the FBI's. Security personnel emerged first, scanning the area with professional efficiency. Then she stepped out. Nia Hayes was tall, maybe 5'10", with dark skin and natural hair pulled back in a sleek bun. She wore a tailored black suit that probably cost more than Darius's truck, but her face was makeup-free and ravaged by exhaustion. Dark circles hollowed her eyes. Her hands shook as she smoothed down her jacket. She looked like a woman who'd been through hell and somehow managed to keep walking. Agent Morrison met her at the door, speaking in low tones. Darius hung back, suddenly aware of his work-stained jeans and faded t-shirt, of his small house with its worn furniture and modest everything. Then Nia Hayes looked past Morrison and locked eyes with him. "Mr. Bennett?" Her voice was hoarse, as if she'd been screaming or crying or both. "Yes, ma'am." She crossed the distance between them in 4 long strides and grabbed his hands. Her grip was strong, desperate. "Where is she? Is my baby okay?" "She's sleeping," Darius said gently. "She's safe. A little banged up, but safe." Nia's face crumpled. She pressed one hand to her mouth, trying to hold back sobs. Can I see her?" "Of course. This way." He led her down the short hallway to Malik's room. The door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, they could see the 2 children curled up together in the narrow bed, Amara's arm thrown over Malik's shoulder, both of them breathing deep and even. Nia made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "She's really here. She's really—" She pushed open the door, moving as if in a dream. Darius stayed in the doorway, giving her space, as Nia knelt beside the bed and reached out with trembling fingers to touch her daughter's face. "Amara," she whispered. "Baby, wake up. Mama's here." Amara's eyes fluttered open. For a moment, confusion clouded her features. Then recognition hit. "Mama?" "Yes, baby. Yes, Mama's here. I'm here." Nia was crying openly now, pulling Amara into her arms, rocking her back and forth. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry." Amara clung to her mother, her own tears soaking into Nia's expensive jacket. "I was scared, Mama. The bad man—" Shh. You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore. I promise, baby. I promise. Malik had woken up during the commotion. He sat up, rubbing his eyes, looking bewildered and a little hurt to see Amara crying in someone else's arms. Nia noticed him. She pulled back slightly, one arm still around Amara, and looked at Malik with an expression of wonder. You must be Malik. He nodded shyly. Amara told the nice doctor lady that you shared your dinosaur with her, and your bed. That was very kind of you. She needed somewhere safe to sleep, Malik said matter-of-factly. And friends share. Nia's face did something complicated. Yes, they do. She looked up at Darius standing in the doorway. Mr. Bennett, can we talk? After I get Amara settled? Of course. It took another 20 minutes to calm Amara down enough to let go of her mother. The child psychologist suggested letting Amara stay until morning rather than moving her in the middle of the night, and Nia, reluctantly, agreed. Agents would remain posted throughout the house and outside. Darius made coffee, strong and black, and brought 2 mugs to the living room where Nia had collapsed onto the couch. She accepted the cup with a nod of thanks and took a long drink, not seeming to notice or care that it was scalding hot. I don't know how to thank you, she said finally. The FBI said you found her on the highway? That you brought her here, cleaned her wounds, fed her? It wasn't anything special, Darius started, but Nia held up a hand. Please don't diminish what you did. Do you have any idea how many people drove past that highway today? How many people saw a little black girl in trouble and decided it wasn't their problem? Her voice cracked. You stopped. You helped her. You kept her safe when I couldn't. You can't blame yourself for what happened. Nia laughed, but there was no humor in it. Can I? I hired the security team that was supposed to protect her. I trusted the wrong people. My husband died 6 months ago, Mr. Bennett. He was investigating financial irregularities at my company. I think someone killed him for getting too close to the truth. And then they took my baby to punish me, to scare me, to destroy me. She set down the coffee cup with shaking hands. I have money, power, resources. But none of that mattered. None of it could find my daughter. And then a mechanic in a small town did what billion-dollar security firms couldn't. He brought her home. Darius didn't know what to say to that. The exhaustion of the day was catching up with him, making his head feel stuffed with cotton. I'm just glad she's okay, that you're together again. Nia studied him for a long moment. The FBI did a background check on you. I hope you don't mind. I had to know who had my daughter. I don't mind. Single father. Wife died of cancer 3 years ago. You work at Patterson's Auto Repair, have for 8 years. Never been arrested, not even a speeding ticket. Coach your son's Little League team. Volunteer at the community center. She paused. They said you sometimes fix cars for free, for families who can't afford repairs. Darius shifted uncomfortably. Sometimes people need help getting to work or getting their kids to school. If I can help, I do. Why? Why what? Why do you help? When you're barely getting by yourself? When it costs you money you probably can't afford to lose? Darius thought about his answer carefully. When Jasmine, my wife, when she got sick, people in this town helped us. They brought meals, they watched Malik, they raised money for her treatments, even though it wasn't enough in the end. I couldn't have gotten through it without them. He met Nia's eyes. I help because people help me, because that's what you're supposed to do. You take care of each other. Nia was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. I used to believe that. Before I had money, when I was just a scholarship kid from Atlanta trying to make it in Silicon Valley. People helped me then too. She smiled sadly. Funny how success can make you forget where you came from, how it can make you trust lawyers and security consultants more than your own instincts. You didn't forget, Darius said. You just got hurt. That's different. Is it? Yeah, because hurt people can heal. People who forget who they are, that's harder to fix. Nia looked at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You're not what I expected, Mr. Bennett. Call me Darius. And what did you expect? I don't know. Someone looking for a reward, maybe? Or publicity? Or someone who'd demand something in exchange for helping my daughter? Darius felt a flash of anger. I would never. I know, Nia interrupted. I know that now. I knew it the moment I saw how you'd taken care of her, how your son shared his bed without hesitation. I'm sorry for even thinking it. I've been surrounded by people with agendas for so long, I forgot that genuine goodness still existed. They sat in silence for a moment, two exhausted parents bound together by an impossible day. What happens now? Darius asked. The FBI thinks they know who took her. Someone on my executive team working with competitors who wanted to steal proprietary information. They're making arrests tonight. Nia's voice hardened. And I'm going to make sure everyone involved pays for what they did. For killing my nanny, for traumatizing my daughter, for... She stopped, swallowing hard. I'm going to burn their whole world down. Darius believed her. There was steel in that voice, a rage banked but not extinguished. But first, Nia continued, her voice softening, I need to get my baby home. Get her to doctors, therapists, somewhere she can start to heal. She looked around the modest living room. Though I think she might have started healing here already. She felt safe enough to sleep. That's more than I could have asked for. She's a brave kid. She is. She's braver than I am. Nia stood, smoothing down her suit. I should try to sleep. The FBI set up a room for me down the hall. I can't leave her. Not yet. I understand. She paused at the hallway. Darius? The agents told me what Amara said, about you being an angel. A real smile, small but genuine, crossed her face. I think she might be right. I'm not. You are. To her. To me. You gave me back my daughter when I thought I'd lost everything. Her eyes glistened with fresh tears. I won't forget that. Ever. She disappeared down the hall, and Darius was left alone in his living room, the weight of the day finally settling onto his shoulders like a physical thing. He thought about going to bed, but knew sleep wouldn't come. Instead, he walked quietly to Malik's room and stood in the doorway, watching the two children sleep. His son and a little girl whose mother could buy and sell this entire town without noticing the charge on her credit card. Tomorrow, Nia Hayes would take her daughter and return to her world of private planes and security details and corporate warfare. Darius would go back to changing oil and replacing brake pads and trying to stretch his paycheck to cover groceries and utilities. Their lives had intersected for one brief, impossible moment, and then they would diverge again, as they always had to. That's what Darius told himself as he finally crawled into his own bed after midnight, exhaustion pulling him under. But he was wrong. This wasn't an ending. It was only the beginning. Morning came too soon, pale sunlight filtering through the worn curtains of Darius's bedroom. He'd managed maybe 3 hours of sleep, his mind refusing to quiet, replaying every moment of the previous day on an endless loop. When he finally gave up and padded into the kitchen at 6:30, he found Nia already there, sitting at his small table with the laptop open and her phone pressed to her ear. I don't care what the board thinks, she was saying, her voice cold and precise. Martin Chen is done. I want his access revoked, his office cleared, and security footage from every entry point for the last 6 months on my desk by noon. Yes, I know what time it is. Make it happen. She ended the call and looked up at Darius. Her eyes were bloodshot, her suit rumpled from sleeping in it, but there was a fierce energy radiating from her that hadn't been there the night before. The shock had worn off. Now there was only focused rage. Coffee, Darius offered. Please. Black, if you have it. He poured 2 cups and sat down across from her. You find out who did it? Martin Chen, my chief technology officer. The man I trusted to build our entire security infrastructure. She laughed bitterly. Turns out he's been selling corporate secrets to Vault-Tec for 18 months. They wanted access to our quantum encryption protocols. Worth billions if they could replicate it. And your husband figured it out. Nia's face went tight. David was always better with numbers than I was. He noticed discrepancies in our server access logs, started digging. I think Martin realized David was getting close, so he... She stopped, taking a shaky breath. The police said it was a heart attack. David was only 32. He ran marathons. But I couldn't prove anything, and everyone said I was just looking for someone to blame for my grief. But you weren't. No, I wasn't. Her hands clenched around the coffee mug. When that didn't stop me from investigating, Martin took Amara, left her nanny dead and my baby traumatized, all to distract me, to break me, to make me too afraid to keep asking questions. Darius felt sick. How could someone do that to a child? Because to men like Martin, people are just variables, obstacles to eliminate, or tools to manipulate. Nia's voice was steady now, ice cold. But he miscalculated. He thought losing Amara would destroy me. Instead, it just showed me exactly how far I'm willing to go. Before Darius could respond, he heard small footsteps in the hallway. Malik appeared in the doorway, hair sticking up in every direction, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Dad? Is Amara still here? She's still sleeping, buddy. Why don't you get dressed and we'll make some breakfast? Can I make pancakes? Amara said she likes pancakes. Nia's expression softened immediately. When did she say that? Last night before we fell asleep. We were talking about our favorite foods. Malik yawned hugely. She said her daddy used to make chocolate chip pancakes on Sundays. Pain flashed across Nia's face so quickly, Darius almost missed it. Yes. Yes, he did. Malik, oblivious to the undercurrents, was already pulling ingredients from the pantry. Darius joined him, and together they mixed batter while Nia watched, something unreadable in her expression. They were just pouring the first pancake onto the griddle when Amara appeared, bear clutched tight in one arm, wearing one of Malik's oversized t-shirts that hung to her knees. Her bandaged feet shuffled carefully across the linoleum. Mama? Her voice was small, uncertain, as if she feared the previous night had been a dream. Nia was across the room in seconds, dropping to her knees to pull Amara into her arms. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. They held each other for a long moment, and Darius busied himself with the pancakes, giving them privacy. Malik, however, had no such instincts. Mrs. Hayes, do you want pancakes too? We're making lots because Dad says breakfast is important for growing brains. Nia laughed, a real laugh this time, pulling back from Amara. I would love pancakes. Thank you, Malik. They ate together at the small table, 4 people who shouldn't have fit into each other's lives, but somehow did, at least for this one strange morning. Amara ate slowly, wincing occasionally when she shifted her injured feet, but she managed 3 pancakes and seemed to gain strength with each bite. The doctor will be here soon, Nia told her daughter gently. She needs to check your feet and make sure everything's healing properly. Amara's face went tight with fear. Will it hurt? Maybe a little, but I'll be right there with you, and afterward we can go home. Back to your own room, your own bed. But Amara didn't look happy at this news. Instead, she glanced at Malik, then down at her plate. Can Malik come visit? The question hung in the air. Nia opened her mouth, clearly about to give some gentle deflection, but Malik beat her to it. Yeah, you could come to my school and meet my friends, and we could build that Lego castle we talked about, and Dad could teach you how to change a tire because he says everyone should know how to do that, even though I said that's what phones are for. Malik, Darius interrupted gently. Amara lives really far away, buddy, in New York. That's like a whole day's drive. Malik's face fell. Oh. Amara looked close to tears. But I don't want to say goodbye yet. Nia reached over and took her daughter's hand. You don't have to. Not right this second. We'll figure something out, okay? A knock at the door interrupted them. Agent Morrison entered with a woman in her 50s carrying a medical bag. The doctor. Sarah Okonkwo, according to her introduction, had kind eyes and gentle hands, and she managed to examine Amara's feet while keeping up a steady stream of conversation about her own grandchildren that distracted the little girl from the discomfort. The wounds are clean, Dr. Okonkwo pronounced finally. No signs of infection. Someone did an excellent job with the initial care. She looked at Darius approvingly. You have medical training? No, ma'am. Just YouTube and common sense. Well, your common sense might have prevented a serious infection. These will heal fine, but she should stay off them as much as possible for the next week. No running, no rough play, and she'll need to see her regular pediatrician for a follow-up. After the examination, FBI agents began arriving to conduct final interviews and collect remaining evidence. The house filled with official bodies, and Darius felt the space getting smaller, the intrusion more overwhelming. Nia must have sensed it. She pulled Agent Morrison aside, spoke in low tones, and within 20 minutes, the house was cleared except for 2 agents posted discreetly outside. Thank you, Darius said quietly. You've had your home invaded enough, Nia replied, and I imagine you need to get to work soon. Darius glanced at the clock. Nearly 9. He should have been at the shop an hour ago. I should call my boss, let him know. Already taken care of, Nia said. I spoke with Mr. Patterson this morning, explained the situation. He said to take as much time as you need. Darius blinked. You called my boss? I hope that's okay. I just thought, I didn't want you to get in trouble for helping my daughter. It should have felt presumptuous, this billionaire making calls on his behalf, but her expression was so genuinely uncertain, so worried she'd overstepped, that Darius found himself smiling. It's okay, thank you. The morning stretched into afternoon. A child psychologist arrived to spend time with Amara, gently coaxing out more details about her captivity. Darius kept Malik occupied outside, shooting baskets in the driveway, trying to give Amara space to process everything with her mother present. Dad? Malik asked, dribbling the worn basketball. Is Amara going to be okay? Like, really okay? Darius chose his words carefully. She's going to hurt for a while, buddy. What happened to her was scary and bad, but she's strong, and she's got her mama back, and she's got good doctors. So yeah, I think she'll be okay eventually. Good. Malik took a shot, missed, chased down the rebound. I like her. She's nice, and she didn't make fun of me when I said I was scared of the dark. Why would anyone make fun of you for that? Some kids at school do. But Amara said she's scared of the dark too now because that's where the bad man kept her. So we're going to be scared together. He said it with such simple logic, such pure childhood acceptance of shared fear as a bond rather than a weakness. Inside, through the window, Darius could see Nia sitting with Amara on the couch, the psychologist across from them. Nia's arm was around her daughter's shoulders, and even from this distance, Darius could see the protective tension in her body, the way she angled herself between the doctor and Amara like a shield. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Nia. Got your number from Agent Morrison. Can we talk privately before I leave? Important. Darius glanced at Malik, still absorbed in his basketball game, then typed back. Sure. When? Now? Back porch? He found her waiting there, leaning against the railing, looking out at the modest backyard where a rusty swing set stood next to a small vegetable garden. She turned when the screen door creaked. Your garden, she said. You grow your own vegetables? Tomatoes, peppers, some herbs. Saves money and Malik likes helping. Makes him feel responsible. Nia nodded slowly. David wanted to start a garden at our place in the Hamptons. I told him we didn't have time, that we could just buy organic. She laughed softly. I was wrong about a lot of things. Darius waited, sensing she had more to say. The FBI caught Martin Chen an hour ago, Nia continued, trying to board a private flight to Singapore. He's talking, trying to cut a deal, giving up everyone involved. She gripped the railing hard enough that her knuckles went white. It's over. The immediate danger, at least. That's good. That's really good. Yes, which means I can take Amara home, get her back to her normal life. Nia paused. Except her life will never be normal again. Her nanny is dead. Her sense of safety is shattered. And I have to figure out how to help her heal while running a company and dealing with lawsuits and everything. You'll figure it out. You seem like someone who figures things out. Do I? Nia turned to face him fully. Because right now I feel like I'm drowning, and the only time in the last 3 days I felt like I could breathe was watching my daughter eat pancakes at your kitchen table, listening to your son make elaborate plans for Lego castles. Darius wasn't sure what to say to that. I want to hire you, Nia said suddenly. To fix your car? No, to help me fix something much more important. She took a breath. I've been thinking about this all morning, about what you said last night, about helping people because people helped you, about taking care of each other, and I realized I have all this money, all this power, and I've been using it to build walls, security systems, legal protections, financial insulation, but walls didn't protect Amara. A mechanic in a pickup truck protected her, because you saw a child who needed help and you stopped. I still don't understand what you're asking. Nia pulled out her phone, tapped a few times, then showed him the screen. A bank transfer. His eyes went wide at the number of zeros. That's what I want to pay you, as a consultant, to help me build something different, not walls, bridges. I can't accept that. That's That's more than I make in 5 years. Then think of it as seed money. For a foundation. A real one. Not just a tax write-off. Nia's eyes were bright with something that looked like hope. I want to create a program that helps single parents in crisis, car repairs so they can get to work, emergency housing assistance, medical bills, childcare, all the things that can spiral into catastrophe when you're barely hanging on. Darius felt his heart hammering. Why me? You could hire consultants, experts, because experts would give me data and projections and market analysis. I need someone who actually understands what it's like to be one car breakdown away from losing everything. Someone who knows what real help looks like. She stepped closer. I watched you with Amara, with Malik. You didn't help because you expected anything in return. You helped because it was right. That's the foundation I want to build. Literally. I'm not a businessman. I barely finished community college. I don't need a businessman. I have dozens of those. I need someone with integrity, with compassion, someone who will make sure we're actually helping people, not just writing checks to feel good about ourselves. Nia's voice softened. I need someone to remind me why I started this company in the first place. Because I wanted to protect people's data, their privacy, their right to exist without being exploited. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that mission. I got caught up in stock prices and board meetings and competing with other tech companies. I need to find my way back. Darius looked out at the yard, at Malik still playing basketball, at the small house that was everything he'd been able to provide for his son. He thought about the families he'd helped over the years, the ones who'd helped him. He thought about Jasmine, who'd always believed in paying kindness forward. I can't leave Millbrook, he said finally. Malik's school is here, his friends, his life. I can't uproot him for some job in New York. I wouldn't ask you to. The foundation would have offices in multiple cities. The flagship could be here, in Millbrook, close to communities that actually need it, not sequestered in some Manhattan high-rise. Nia was talking faster now, the words tumbling out. You'd have full autonomy over how the money gets distributed. I'd provide resources and legal support, but you'd make the decisions. You'd build the team. You'd... Stop, Darius said gently. Just stop for a second. Nia fell silent, watching him with those intense eyes. This is crazy, Darius said. You don't even know me. We met less than 24 hours ago. I know you saved my daughter's life. I know you opened your home to a traumatized child without hesitation. I know your son shares his bed with strangers because you've taught him that kindness matters more than comfort. Nia's voice cracked slightly. I know that when I was at the absolute lowest point of my life, convinced I'd never see my daughter again, you gave her back to me. That's enough. That's more than enough. And if I say no, then I'll respect that. I'll still be grateful. I'll still make sure you and Malik are taken care of, college fund, whatever you need. But I'm hoping you won't say no. Because I think you see what I see. An opportunity to help a lot of people. To build something that matters. Darius was quiet for a long moment, thinking. It was insane. Completely insane. But it was also everything he'd ever quietly hoped for, a chance to do more than just survive, to actually make a difference. Can I think about it? He asked. This is a lot to process. Of course. Take all the time you need. Nia hesitated, then added, We're leaving in a few hours, private plane back to New York, but I'll be in touch. And Darius? Whatever you decide, thank you. For everything. She went back inside, and Darius stood on the porch alone, his mind spinning. Through the window, he watched her scoop Amara into her arms, saw his son showing them something on his tablet, all three of them laughing at whatever was on the screen. Two worlds, colliding for one impossible moment. The question was whether they could stay connected or if gravity would pull them back to their separate orbits. By 3 o'clock, preparations for departure were complete. A SUV convoy had assembled outside, security personnel moving with quiet efficiency. Amara's feet had been rebandaged, and she wore new clothes that had been delivered from some expensive children's boutique, soft leggings, and an oversized sweater that probably cost more than Darius's monthly grocery budget, but she still clutched Bear in one arm and Chomper the dinosaur in the other. Malik said I could keep him, Amara explained when her mother raised an eyebrow. To remember. That was very generous of Malik, Nia said, but her eyes found Darius over her daughter's head, and there was something in them. Gratitude mixed with sorrow. mixed with something else he couldn't quite name. The goodbyes were harder than Darius expected. Malik hugged Amara fiercely, making her promise to video call him. Amara cried and said she didn't want to go. Nia looked torn between relief at taking her daughter home and reluctance to leave this small, safe space. Agent Morrison appeared at Nia's elbow. "Ma'am, we really should get moving. Security concerns." Nia nodded, then turned to Darius one final time. "Think about what I said, please." "I will." She held out her hand and he shook it, her grip firm and warm. "You're a good man, Darius Bennett. The world needs more people like you." Then they were gone, swept away in a convoy of black vehicles, leaving only tire tracks in the gravel and an empty space in the living room where federal agents had been camped for hours. Malik stood at the window, watching until the vehicles disappeared around the corner. "She's really gone." "Yeah, buddy, she had to go home." "I know, but I'm still sad." Malik turned to his father, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Is it okay to be sad even when you know it's the right thing?" Darius pulled his son into a hug. Yeah, it's absolutely okay." They ordered pizza that night, neither of them feeling up to cooking. Malik was quieter than usual, pushing pepperoni around his plate, clearly thinking hard about something. "Dad, are we poor?" The question came out of nowhere, hitting Darius like a punch. "Why would you ask that?" "Because Amara's house probably has like 100 bedrooms, and she probably has 1,000,000 toys, and her mom can buy anything she wants. But you always say we can't afford stuff, so I was wondering if that means we're poor." Darius set down his slice, choosing his words carefully. "We don't have as much money as Amara's family, that's true, but we have everything we need: food, a home, each other. We're not rich, but we're not poor either. We're just us." "But if we had more money, could you work less? You're always tired." The observation stung because it was true. Darius was tired, bone-deep exhausted from juggling work and single parenthood and trying to make ends meet. "Maybe," he admitted, "but you know what? I like my job. I like fixing things, helping people. And I like that we have time together, even if I'm a little tired sometimes." Malik considered this. Amara's mom looked tired too. Really tired. Maybe being rich doesn't mean you're not tired. That's a pretty wise observation, bud. "I'm a pretty wise kid." Malik grinned, some of his usual energy returning. "Can I have another slice?" That night, after Malik was asleep, Darius sat at the kitchen table with a beer he didn't really want and a decision weighing on him like a physical thing. The house felt too quiet without the background noise of federal agents, without Amara's presence filling the small space. His phone rang. Unknown number, but he answered anyway. "Mr. Bennett? This is Richard Okafor. I'm Ms. Hayes' attorney." Darius's stomach tightened. "Is everything okay? Is Amara—" "Everyone's fine. I'm calling because Ms. Hayes asked me to formalize the offer she made you this afternoon. I'm emailing over a contract now. Take your time reviewing it. Have your own lawyer look at it if you'd like. But I wanted to walk you through the basics." For the next 20 minutes, the lawyer outlined terms that made Darius's head spin. Salary, benefits, equity in the foundation, autonomy clauses. The foundation would be called Second Chances, and Darius would serve as its executive director with full operational control. "There's one more thing," Okafor said. "Ms. Hayes wanted me to make it clear that this offer has no expiration date. Whether you say yes tomorrow or 6 months from now or never, there's no pressure. She just wanted you to know the opportunity is real, and it's yours if you want it." After the call ended, Darius opened the email and stared at the contract. It was real. All of it. Not some grief-fueled impulse, but an actual legally binding offer to change his entire life. He thought about Malik's question. Are we poor? He thought about the families he'd helped over the years, and the hundreds more he could help with resources like this. He thought about Jasmine, who'd always told him he was meant for something bigger than changing oil in a small-town garage. And he thought about Amara's small hand in his, her whispered words about angels looking like regular people. Darius picked up his phone and typed a message to the number Nia had texted from earlier. "I need to talk to you. Can we set up a call?" The response came within seconds. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m. I'll call you." "Okay." "And Nia?" "Thank you." For seeing something in me I'm not sure I see in myself. I only see what's there, Darius. You just need to start looking. The next morning, Darius dropped Malik at school and returned home with his heart pounding. At exactly 10 o'clock, his phone rang. "Good morning." Naya's voice was warm, though he could hear exhaustion in it. "How are you?" "Overwhelmed, confused, terrified. You?" She laughed. "Same, honestly. Amara barely slept last night. Nightmares. But she's seeing her therapist this afternoon, and the doctor says that's normal, that it'll take time. And you? How are you holding up?" There was a pause. "No one's asked me that. Everyone wants to know about Amara, about the company, about the legal proceedings, but no one's asked how I'm doing. So I'm asking. Another pause. "I'm angry, and relieved, and guilty that I didn't protect her better, and terrified it could happen again, and grateful to you in ways I can't even articulate." Her voice wavered. "I'm a mess, basically. Join the club." They talked for an hour, about fear and grief and single parenthood, about the weight of responsibility, the terror of potentially failing your child. Nia spoke about her husband, about the investigation she now knew had cost him his life. Darius talked about Jasmine, about those final months, about learning to be both parents to a 3-year-old while drowning in grief. "We're both walking wounded," Nia said finally, "trying to raise kids while dealing with trauma we haven't fully processed." "Yeah, but we're still walking. That counts for something." "It does." He could hear the smile in her voice. "So, the foundation, have you thought about it?" "I've thought about nothing else." "And?" Darius took a deep breath. "I want to say yes, but I need to know this is real. That you won't change your mind in a month when the crisis has passed and things go back to normal." "Things will never go back to normal," Nia said quietly. "Martin's betrayal, David's death, Amara's kidnapping, that's not something you just bounce back from. It changes you fundamentally. And part of how it's changed me is that I finally see what matters, not stock prices or market share, people, helping them, being part of something bigger than myself." She paused. "This is real, Darius. I promise you. This is the most real thing I've done in years." "Then yes, I'm in. I don't know what I'm doing, and I'll probably screw up a lot, but I'm in." He could hear the emotion in her voice when she responded, "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "So what happens now?" "Now we build something, together." Over the next 3 weeks, Darius's life transformed in ways he couldn't have imagined. Lawyers and accountants descended on Millbrook, working out of the community center to establish the foundation's legal structure. An old warehouse on the edge of town, abandoned for a decade, was purchased and renovations began to convert it into the foundation's headquarters. Nia came herself twice, flying in for the day to tour potential spaces and meet with local officials. Each time, she brought Amara, who spent the visits attached to Malik, like a shadow, the 2 children inseparable during her brief stays. "She talks about him constantly," Nia confided during her second visit, watching the kids play in Darius's backyard. "Malik this, Malik that. Malik." Her therapist says it's healthy, that having a friend who saw her at her worst and didn't treat her like she was broken is important for her recovery. "Malik's been different too," Darius admitted, "more thoughtful. He asked me last night if we could donate some of his toys to kids who don't have any." "They're good for each other." "Yeah, they are." Nia was quiet for a moment, then said, "I've been thinking about relocating, not full-time, but splitting time between New York and here, setting up a home office, letting Amara have more space, more normalcy." Darius looked at her in surprise. "You'd leave New York?" "Not entirely. The company headquarters has to stay there. But I can run things remotely most of the time. Fly in for board meetings and major decisions." She met his eyes. "And I want to be hands-on with the foundation, not just writing checks from a distance. I want to see the impact, meet the families we're helping." That's a big change." I need a big change. We both do, Amara and me. This place, it gave me my daughter back. It gave me hope. I want to be part of it." By the end of the month, the foundation's first office was operational. They'd hired a small staff, a case manager, an accountant, an administrative assistant. Darius had interviewed each one personally, looking for the same thing in all of them: genuine compassion paired with practical competence. The foundation's first client was Maria Gonzalez, a single mother of three whose transmission had died, stranding her 40 miles from her job at a nursing home. The repair quote was $1,800 she didn't have. Without the car, she'd lose the job. Without the job, she'd lose the apartment. Darius met her at Patterson's Auto Repair, where his old boss had agreed to do foundation work at cost. Maria was in her 30s, exhausted and terrified, holding back tears as she explained her situation. "We'll take care of it," Darius told her. "The car will be ready tomorrow, and we're also going to connect you with our housing assistance program. Make sure you have a buffer for emergencies." Maria stared at him. "Why? Why would you help me? You don't even know me." "Because someone helped me once when I needed it, and because everyone deserves a chance to keep their life from falling apart over a car repair." When Maria left, crying with relief, Darius felt something shift in his chest. This was what Nia had seen. This was what the foundation could do. That night, he called Nia to tell her about Maria. "That's exactly the kind of situation we exist for," Nia said, and he could hear the satisfaction in her voice. "How did it feel?" "Right. It felt right." "Good. Because we have 43 more applications already. Word spreading fast." 43? Darius felt a spike of panic. "I don't know if we're ready." "Then we get ready. We hire more staff, we expand our capacity, we figure it out." Nia's voice was firm. "This is what you're good at, Darius. You see people, really see them. You understand their struggles because you've lived them. That's irreplaceable." Over the next months, the foundation grew. They helped families with emergency rent, medical bills, car repairs, childcare costs. Each case was different, each family's crisis unique, but the common thread was always the same: people on the edge, needing just enough help to step back from the cliff. Darius threw himself into the work with an intensity that surprised him. For the first time since Jasmine's death, he felt like he had purpose beyond just surviving. He was building something that mattered, and through it all, Nia was there. Sometimes in person during her increasingly frequent trips to Millbrook, more often via video calls and late-night phone conversations about foundation strategy. They developed an easy rhythm, a partnership built on mutual respect and shared vision. Malik noticed the changes in his father. "You smile more now," he observed one evening over dinner, "like you used to before Mom got sick." The comment hit Darius hard. He hadn't realized how much of himself he'd lost to grief and exhaustion until he started getting it back. "I'm happy, buddy, happier than I've been in a long time." "Because of the foundation?" "Yeah, and because I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Like maybe this was always where I was headed, I just had to take a weird path to get here." Malik considered this with his typical seriousness. "Like how we found Amara? That was weird too, but it was good weird." "Exactly like that." That night, after Malik was asleep, Darius's phone buzzed with a text from Nia. "Are you awake?" "Yeah, what's up?" "I finalized the purchase of a house here, in Millbrook, closing next month." Darius stared at the message, his heart doing something complicated in his chest. "You're really doing this? Really moving here? Part-time?" "But yes. Really doing this. Amara needs this. I need this. Is that okay?" "Why wouldn't it be okay?" "Because I don't want you to feel like I'm invading your space. This is your town, your life. I'm just trying to find a place in it." Darius thought about his answer carefully before typing. "You're not invading. You're joining. There's a difference. And for what it's worth, I'm glad. Malik will be thrilled to have Amara around more. And He hesitated, then finished. "I like working with you. I like who I am when I'm building this with you. So yeah, I'm glad you're coming." The response took a few minutes. "Thank you. For everything, Darius. For giving me my daughter back. For believing in this crazy idea. For being exactly who you are." "Right back at you." He set down the phone and looked around his small living room, at the photos of Jasmine still on the walls, at Malik's backpack by the door, at the modest life he'd built from grief and determination. It was all about to change again, expand, become something new. And for the first time in 3 years, Darius wasn't afraid of change. He was ready for it. The house Nia purchased sat on 5 acres at the edge of Millbrook, far enough from town to offer privacy, but close enough that Amara could walk to Malik's school when she visited. It was a sprawling ranch-style home that had seen better days, with peeling paint and overgrown gardens, but it had good bones and a wraparound porch that reminded Nia of the Georgia farmhouse where she'd spent summers as a child. Darius first saw it on a cold November morning when Nia asked him to meet her there. She was standing in the driveway when he pulled up, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual designer suits, her hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. "What do you think?" she asked as he climbed out of his truck. "I think it needs work," Darius said honestly, eyeing the sagging gutters and cracked foundation. "But it's got potential." "That's what the inspector said. Also that the electrical needs updating, the roof has maybe 2 years left, and there's some water damage in the basement." Nia smiled wryly. "I've purchased buildings worth millions without blinking, but this place terrifies me." "Why'd you buy it then?" "Because Amara picked it. We looked at 6 different properties, and this was the one where she ran through every room laughing, where she immediately claimed the bedroom with the window seat, where she said it felt like home." Nia's expression softened. "After everything she's been through, how could I say no to that?" Darius understood completely. He'd have moved mountains if Malik had found something that made him that happy. "When are you planning to move in?" "That's actually why I asked you here. The contractor says it'll take 3 months minimum to make it livable. But I was thinking, what if we did some of the work ourselves? Not the major stuff, but painting, landscaping, some of the cosmetic repairs?" She looked at him hopefully. "I know you're busy with the foundation, but I thought maybe it could be a project, something hands-on. I miss working with my hands, building actual things instead of just software." "You want to renovate a house? You, who can afford to hire a dozen contractors?" "I want to feel connected to this place. I want Amara to see that home isn't something you buy, it's something you build." Nia kicked at a loose stone in the driveway. "And honestly, I want to prove to myself that I can still do normal things, that I'm not so disconnected from regular life that I can't paint a wall or plant a garden." Darius found himself smiling. "All right, I'm in. But fair warning, I'm putting you to work. Real work. No supervisory role while everyone else sweats." "I wouldn't have it any other way." They shook on it, and Darius felt something shift between them, a subtle change he couldn't quite name. Partnership was evolving into something warmer, more personal. Over the following weeks, the house became a weekend project. Nia would fly in Friday evenings, and she and Darius would spend Saturdays working on repairs while Malik and Amara played in the yard or helped with age-appropriate tasks. Sundays were reserved for foundation work, reviewing cases, and planning expansion. The first weekend, they tackled the master bedroom. Darius showed Nia how to properly prep walls for painting, filling holes, sanding rough patches, taping edges. She was a quick study, methodical and precise, approaching the work with the same intensity she brought to running a tech company. "You're really good at this," Darius observed, watching her cut in along the ceiling with steady hands. "I told you, I didn't grow up rich. My mom cleaned houses, and I helped her sometimes. I learned how to do things properly because we couldn't afford to do them twice." Nia paused, roller in hand. "That's part of why losing touch with that version of myself has been so hard. I became the kind of person who throws money at problems instead of solving them directly. You're solving them now. Only because you reminded me how." She smiled at him over her shoulder. "You've been good for me, Darius. Good for both of us, Amara and me." In the backyard, Malik was showing Amara how to identify different types of leaves, his serious 6-year-old voice explaining the difference between oak and maple. Amara listened with rapt attention, her earlier trauma slowly giving way to moments of genuine childhood joy. "They're good together," Nia said softly, joining Darius at the window. "Sometimes I worry about how attached she's getting. What happens if things change, if the foundation doesn't work out, if—" "Stop," Darius interrupted gently. "You can't protect her from every possible hurt, and trying to will just prevent her from experiencing good things." "I know, I can't lose her again, even emotionally." "You won't, but you have to let her have connections, have friends, have a life beyond just you." He turned to face her. "That's not abandonment, Nia. That's parenting." She was quiet for a long moment. David used to say the same thing, that I held on too tight, worried too much. Her voice went thick. I wish he could see her now, see her healing. He'd be proud of how brave she's being. I think he can see her, wherever he is. Nia looked at him sharply. You believe that? In something after? I have to. Otherwise, what was the point of loving Jasmine so much if she just disappeared completely when she died? Darius leaned against the windowsill. I talk to her sometimes. Tell her about Malik, about what we're building. Maybe I'm just talking to myself, but it helps. I talk to David too, Nia admitted. Mostly I apologize for not believing him about the company, for not seeing the danger until it was too late. He wouldn't want you carrying that guilt. No, he'd want me to burn down everyone responsible and rebuild something better from the ashes. A hard edge crept into her voice. Which is exactly what I'm doing. The foundation is part of that, taking everything Martin tried to destroy and turning it into something that actually helps people. By December, the house was taking shape. Fresh paint brightened every room. New fixtures replaced the outdated ones. The gardens were cleared and replanted with winter-hardy plants that would bloom in spring. Amara's bedroom was painted a soft lavender, with the window seat cushioned and piled with pillows, a reading nook where she could escape into books. The foundation was thriving too. They'd helped over 100 families, expanding beyond just emergency assistance to include job training programs and financial literacy workshops. Word spread through communities across 3 counties, and applications poured in faster than they could process them. Darius hired additional staff, building a team that shared his philosophy of dignity-first assistance. No judgment, no bureaucratic hoops, just real help for real people facing real crises. One afternoon in mid-December, a woman named Claire Davidson walked into the foundation office with her teenage son. She was white, mid-40s, wearing a coat that had seen better winters and holding herself with the brittle pride of someone who'd never asked for help before. I don't know if I qualify, she began, her voice shaking. We're managing, but why don't you sit down and tell me what's going on, Darius said gently, gesturing to the chairs across from his desk. Claire's story spilled out in fragments. Her husband had died 2 years ago. Sudden heart attack, no warning. She'd been managing on her salary as a school librarian, but her son needed surgery for a sports injury, and even with insurance, the out-of-pocket costs were crushing. She was 3 months behind on the mortgage, facing foreclosure. I've worked my whole life, Claire said, tears streaming down her face. I've never asked for handouts, never needed charity, but I can't lose our house. It's all we have left of John. All our memories are in those walls. Her son, a lanky 15-year-old named Connor, sat rigid in his chair, staring at his hands, clearly mortified by his mother's tears. Darius reviewed their application quickly. They qualified easily, but more than that, he recognized the specific desperation of someone who'd played by all the rules and still ended up drowning. We can help, he said, with the medical bills and the mortgage arrears. But I also want to connect you with our financial counselor, help you build a buffer so one emergency doesn't put you back in this position. Claire broke down completely, and Connor awkwardly patted her shoulder while avoiding eye contact with everyone. When they left 20 minutes later, Claire hugged Darius so hard he felt his ribs compress. You saved our lives, she whispered. You literally saved our lives. After they were gone, Darius sat at his desk feeling that familiar ache in his chest. The weight of other people's pain mixed with the satisfaction of being able to ease it. His phone buzzed. Naya, how's your day going? Just helped a family keep their home. How's yours? Conference calls and hostile board members? Want to trade? Not even a little bit. Wise man, I'm flying in tomorrow. Want to grab dinner? Just us? No kids? Darius stared at the message, his pulse quickening. They'd shared dozens of meals, but always with Malik and Amara present. Always with the safe buffer of children to keep things firmly in the friend zone. Sure. Where? That diner on Main Street you're always talking about? The one with the pie? Rosie's, 7 o'clock? Perfect. See you then. Darius set down his phone, trying to ignore the nervous flutter in his stomach. It was just dinner. Just 2 friends grabbing food and talking about the foundation. Nothing more. He almost believed it. The next evening, Darius found himself changing shirts 3 times before settling on a simple navy button-down that Jasmine had bought him years ago. Malik watched this performance with barely concealed amusement. "Dad, why are you being weird?" "I'm not being weird." "You changed your shirt like 5 times. That's weird." Malik flopped on his father's bed. "Is it because you're having dinner with Mrs. Hayes?" "It's just dinner, bud. A work meeting." "Uh-huh." Malik's tone suggested he wasn't buying it. "Are you nervous?" "No, maybe. A little." "Why? You hang out with her all the time." "This is different. It's just the two of us. No kids. No foundation talk necessarily." Darius sat down next to his son. "Feels more like, I don't know, something other than work." Malik was quiet for a moment, then asked carefully, "Do you like her? Like her?" Darius's heart clenched. Malik had never asked about him dating, never questioned the absence of anyone but Jasmine in their lives. "Would that bother you if I did?" "I don't know." Malik picked at the bedspread. "I liked Mom. I still like Mom. But she's not here anymore, and Mrs. Hayes is nice, and Amara's my best friend, and you smile different when you talk to her." "Different how?" "Like how you look in pictures with Mom. Happy different, not just regular different." Darius pulled Malik into a hug, his throat tight. "Your mom will always be special to me. Always. Nothing and no one could ever replace her. But she's been gone 3 years, buddy, and I think maybe it's okay to care about someone new, not instead of Mom. In addition to her. Does Mrs. Hayes know you like her?" "I don't even know if I like her that way. We're friends, good friends. Maybe that's all we'll ever be." Malik pulled back, giving his father a look that was far too wise for 6 years old. "Dad, grown-ups are so dumb sometimes. You obviously like her. She obviously likes you. Everyone can see it except you guys." Darius laughed despite himself. "When did you get so smart?" "I've always been smart. You just don't always notice." Malik hopped off the bed. "Go to dinner. Have fun. And Dad, it's okay to be happy. Mom would want you to be happy." Rosie's Diner was a Millbrook institution, all chrome and red vinyl and checkered floors, unchanged since the 1950s. Nia was already in a booth when Darius arrived, and his breath caught slightly at the sight of her. She dressed down, jeans and a simple black sweater, but there was something different about her tonight. Softer. More open. "Hey," she said, smiling as he slid into the booth across from her. "I ordered coffee. Hope that's okay." "Coffee's perfect." They ordered meatloaf for him, chicken pot pie for her, slices of Rosie's famous apple pie for dessert, and talked easily about the foundation, about the kids, about the house renovations. But underneath the casual conversation, Darius felt a current of something else, a tension that was almost electric. "Can I ask you something?" Nia said suddenly, setting down her fork. "And you can tell me if I'm overstepping." "Okay." "Are you happy?" "Really happy. Not just going through the motions happy?" Darius considered the question. "Yeah, I am. For the first time since Jasmine died, I feel like I'm living instead of just surviving. The foundation, helping people, building something meaningful. It's given me purpose." He paused. "Why do you ask?" "Because I'm happy too. Happier than I've been since David died. Maybe happier than I was even before that, when everything was about stock prices and market share." Nia's eyes were bright in the diner's fluorescent light. "And I've been trying to figure out why, what changed, and I realized it's you. This partnership, this friendship, this new life we're building together. You make me want to be better, do better." Darius's heart was hammering. "Nia, let me finish." She took a breath. "I know this is complicated. We're both still grieving people we loved. We're business partners. We have kids to think about. There are 1,000 reasons why we should keep things exactly as they are." She met his eyes. "But I can't stop thinking about you, about us, about what this could become if we let it." The words hung in the air between them, vulnerable and terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "I think about it too," Darius admitted quietly. "More than I probably should. More than I thought I'd ever think about anyone after Jasmine." He reached across the table, taking her hand. But you're right. It's complicated. I've got Malik to consider, and you've got Amara, and she's been through so much already. I don't want to do anything that might hurt her. What if it doesn't hurt her? What if it helps her? Nia's fingers tightened around his. She already loves you and Malik. You're already part of her life. Would it really be so terrible if we explored whether this could be something more? What if it doesn't work? What if we mess up the friendship, the partnership, everything we've built? What if it does work? What if we're so busy protecting ourselves from potential pain that we miss out on something incredible? Darius looked at their joined hands, at this brilliant, complicated woman who'd crashed into his life in the most impossible way. He thought about Malik's words, that it was okay to be happy, that Jasmine would want him to be happy. I don't know how to do this, he said finally. I've only ever dated one person in my whole life. I married her when I was 22, and I thought we'd grow old together. I don't know how to start over, how to date someone new, how to... We figure it out together, Nia interrupted. Just like we figured out the foundation. Just like we're figuring out how to help our kids heal. We take it slow, we communicate, we put the kids first, and we see where this goes. She smiled. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility. Possibility, Darius repeated, testing the word. It felt fragile and precious, like something that could shatter if he held it too tight. Is that a yes? He looked at her, really looked at her, seeing not just the billionaire or the business partner or Amara's mother, but the woman, strong and vulnerable, brilliant and wounded, fierce and gentle all at once, someone who'd lost as much as he had and was still brave enough to reach for something new. Yeah, he said softly. That's a yes. Nia's smile was radiant, transforming her entire face. Good, because I was really hoping you'd say that. They finished dinner in a glow of nervous excitement, both of them hyper-aware of every touch, every glance, every moment. When they stepped outside into the cold December night, Nia shivered and Darius automatically draped his jacket around her shoulders. Thank you, she murmured, and then she was kissing him, soft and tentative, a question more than a statement. Darius kissed her back, his hands finding her waist, pulling her closer. It felt strange and familiar all at once, different from kissing Jasmine, but no less right. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Nia laughed quietly. That was worth the wait. We've only known each other 4 months. Exactly, 4 months of wondering. She rested her forehead against his. We should probably talk to the kids before this goes any further. Agreed, though Malik already knows something's up. Kid's too perceptive for his own good. Amara asked me last week if I thought you were handsome. When I said yes, she asked if that meant we were going to get married. Nia smiled. I told her it didn't work that way, but she seemed disappointed. How do you feel about it? The idea of them getting attached, building this family dynamic? Terrified, Nia admitted, but also hopeful. They need this, both of them. Malik needs a mother figure, and Amara needs a father figure. Even if we're just friends, those relationships matter. And if we're more than friends, then they get what neither of us can give them alone. A complete family. Different from what they had before, but maybe that's okay. Maybe different can still be good. They stood in the parking lot for another 20 minutes, just talking, both reluctant to end the evening. Finally, Nia glanced at her watch and groaned. I have a video conference with Tokyo in an hour. I should get back to the house. I'll follow you. Make sure you get there safely. My security team is literally parked 2 cars over. Humor me. She did, and Darius followed her through the quiet streets to the edge of town, watching until she pulled into her driveway and waved from the porch, before disappearing inside. When he got home, Malik was still awake, sitting on the couch in his pajamas, pretending to read a book. You're up late, Darius observed. Couldn't sleep. How was dinner? Good. Really good. Darius sat down next to his son. Mrs. Hayes and I, we decided we want to spend more time together. Not just foundation stuff, more like dating. Malik set down his book. So you do like her? Yeah, buddy, I do. Is that okay with you? Are you going to get married and have babies and forget about me? What? No! Darius pulled Malik into his lap, even though he was really getting too big for it. I could never forget about you. You're my whole world, but there's room in my heart for more people. Loving Mrs. Hayes doesn't mean I love you less. What about Mom? I'll always love your mom. She gave me you, and she was the best person I ever knew. But she's been gone 3 years, Malik, and I think she'd want me to be happy, to live, not just survive. Malik was quiet, processing this. Do I have to call her Mom? No, you call her whatever feels right. Mrs. Hayes, Nia, whatever. No pressure, no rules. Okay? Malik snuggled against his father's chest. I like her, Dad, and I really like Amara. So if you want to date her, that's cool with me. Relief flooded through Darius. Thank you, bud. That means everything to me. Can we still have Saturdays, just us? Always. Some things don't change, no matter what. The next few weeks were a careful dance of new relationship energy balanced with parental responsibility. Darius and Nia told Amara together, sitting her down in the living room of the newly renovated house, and explaining that they liked spending time together and wanted to see if they could be more than friends. Amara's response was immediate and enthusiastic. Does this mean Malik is going to be my brother? Maybe someday, Nia said carefully, but right now we're just seeing how things go. Is that okay with you? Can Malik come over more? Definitely. Then it's okay. Amara shrugged as if the whole thing were obvious. You're happier when Darius is around, Mama. I like when you're happy. Christmas came, and they spent it together, all 4 of them at Nia's house, which was finally finished. Darius and Malik brought a tree and helped decorate it, while Nia made hot chocolate and Amara directed operations from her perch on the couch, her feet still tender from her ordeal months earlier, but healing. They exchanged gifts, modest things from Darius and Malik, more extravagant ones from Nia and Amara, though Nia had clearly tried to tone down her usual spending. But the best gift was simply being together, creating new traditions, building something that felt like family. That night, after the kids were asleep, Darius and Nia sat on the porch wrapped in blankets, watching snow fall in soft, fat flakes. I never thought I'd have this again, Nia said quietly. This feeling, like home isn't a place, it's people. I know what you mean. David would have liked you. He had this saying, character is what you do when no one's watching. You have that kind of character, the kind that stops for a little girl on a highway even when it's inconvenient and potentially dangerous. You would have liked Jasmine too. She believed in people, even when they didn't believe in themselves. She saw potential everywhere. Darius smiled at the memory. She used to say that broken things can be fixed, and fixed things are often stronger than new ones. Is that what we are? Broken things fixing each other? Maybe. Or maybe we're just 2 people who got hurt and decided to be brave anyway. Nia leaned her head on his shoulder. I'm glad you were brave. Glad you pulled over that day. Me too. Inside, through the window, they could see the Christmas tree lights twinkling, Amara's carefully placed ornaments catching the glow. It was a scene of domestic peace that neither of them had expected to find again. The foundation continued to grow through the winter. By March, they'd helped over 400 families and were fielding calls from other states asking how to replicate the model. Nia suggested expanding, opening satellite offices, building a network of support that could reach people nationwide. We could scale this, she said during one of their planning sessions. Turn it into something that impacts thousands of families, not just hundreds. That takes us away from the personal touch, Darius countered. From knowing each family's story, seeing their faces. Not if we build it right. Not if we train people who share your philosophy, your approach. Nia pulled up spreadsheets on her laptop. I've been running numbers. With proper funding and structure, we could have locations in 50 cities within 3 years. That's ambitious. So was starting a tech company in my garage. So was surviving my husband's death and my daughter's kidnapping. We don't have to think small just because the mission is personal. Darius studied the projections, seeing the potential but also the risks. Growth meant bureaucracy, meant losing some of the intimacy that made the foundation special, but it also meant helping exponentially more people. Let's do a pilot, he said finally. Pick 2 cities, set up offices, train local directors. If it works, If we can maintain the quality and the heart of what we're doing, then we expand. But if it turns into just another nonprofit going through the motions, we pull back. Deal. They shook on it, and Darius felt the familiar thrill of building something meaningful. This was what he'd been missing his whole life. Not just surviving, but creating, impacting, mattering. In April, Amara started attending school in Millbrook part-time, splitting her week between there and her private school in New York. Nia had bought a larger house in the city, one with fewer memories of David, fewer shadows, and she was slowly transitioning more of her work to remote status. "I never thought I'd become a small-town person," she confessed one evening, cooking dinner in her Millbrook kitchen while Darius helped. "But there's something about this place, this pace. I can breathe here." "You can breathe because you're choosing to, because you're not running anymore." "Neither are you." It was true. Darius had spent 3 years running from grief, from fear, from the possibility of ever being hurt again. But somewhere along the way, he'd stopped running and started building instead. The kids were in the living room, supposedly doing homework, but actually building an elaborate Lego city that had taken over most of the floor. Their laughter drifted into the kitchen, and Darius felt something settle in his chest. Contentment, maybe, or peace. "I love you," he said suddenly, surprising himself. Nia froze, wooden spoon halfway to her mouth. "What?" "I love you." I wasn't planning to say it yet, wasn't sure when the right time would be, but I realized it's true. I love you. She set down the spoon carefully, turned to face him fully. "You're sure? Because this isn't something you can take back, Darius. Once you say it, I'm sure. I love how fierce you are and how gentle. I love how you fight for what matters and how you're learning to let go of what doesn't. I love watching you with Amara, seeing you heal together. I love—" His voice caught. "I love who I am when I'm with you. You make me want to be better, do better, build better things." Tears were streaming down Nia's face. "I love you too. So much it terrifies me sometimes. Because I can't lose you, I can't lose this, I can't survive another—" He kissed her, cutting off the spiral of fear. "You won't. We won't. Whatever comes, we face it together." From the living room, Malik's voice called out, "Dad, we need more blue bricks!" They broke apart, laughing, and the moment of heavy emotion shifted into something lighter. But that night, after the kids were asleep and Darius was driving home through quiet streets, he felt the full weight of what he'd said. He loved her. This complicated, brilliant, wounded woman had somehow become essential to his life, to his happiness, to his vision of the future. And for the first time since Jasmine's death, that didn't feel like a betrayal. It felt like healing, like coming home. Spring arrived with sudden warmth, transforming Millbrook's landscape into an explosion of color. The Foundation's pilot program launched in 2 cities, Cleveland and Atlanta, and within the first month, both locations were flooded with applications. Darius traveled to each site weekly, training directors who shared his commitment to dignity-based assistance, watching as the model he and Nia had built began to replicate itself in communities hundreds of miles away. But success brought scrutiny. A local news station ran a feature on the Foundation, highlighting the unconventional partnership between a billionaire CEO and a small-town mechanic. The story went viral, picked up by national outlets hungry for feel-good content. Suddenly, cameras were everywhere, reporters asking invasive questions, strangers recognizing Darius at the grocery store. "This is a nightmare," he told Nia after ducking 3 different interview requests in a single morning. "I can't even take Malik to school without someone shoving a microphone in my face." They were sitting in his truck outside the Foundation office, both too exhausted to face another day of media attention. Nia had flown in specifically to help manage the publicity crisis, but even her expensive PR team couldn't contain the feeding frenzy. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice heavy with guilt. "I should have anticipated this, should have protected you better. You can't control the media. I can control how much of my life I expose to them." Nia turned to face him. "Maybe we should cool things down publicly. Keep our relationship private, separate it from the Foundation work. That might take some of the heat off you and Malik." Darius felt his stomach drop. "You want to hide what we have?" "I want to protect what we have. There's a difference." She reached for his hand. I've lived in the public eye for years. I know how vicious it can get, how they twist everything, look for scandal where there is none. I don't want that touching you or the kids. Too late. It already is. That afternoon, a tabloid published a story claiming Darius was using his relationship with Nia to enrich himself, that the foundation was an elaborate scheme to funnel money from her company into his pockets. The article included photos of his modest house, speculation about his finances, and interviews with anonymous sources questioning his motives. Malik came home from school in tears, reporting that kids had been teasing him, saying his dad was a gold digger, that he was only dating Mrs. Hayes for her money. Darius held his son while he cried, rage building in his chest. This was exactly what he'd feared, the outside world contaminating the safe space they'd built, poisoning something pure with cynicism and greed. "It's not true," Malik sobbed. "You love her for real, not for money. Why are people so mean?" "Because they don't understand. Because it's easier to believe the worst about people than to accept that sometimes good things happen for good reasons." Darius wiped his son's tears. "But we know the truth, buddy. That's what matters." "Does Mrs. Hayes know about the article?" "Yeah, she knows." "Is she mad at you?" "No, she's mad at them, at the people spreading lies." Darius pulled back to look at Malik's face. "This might get worse before it gets better. Are you going to be okay?" Malik nodded, trying to be brave. "Can I still be friends with Amara?" "Of course. Nothing changes that." But something had changed. The easy joy of their relationship was now shadowed by public scrutiny, every moment subject to interpretation and judgment by strangers who knew nothing about their lives or their hearts. That evening, Nia called an emergency meeting at the foundation office. Her legal team was present via video conference, along with her head of PR and several board members from Haven Technologies. "We need to address this immediately," the PR director said, a sharp-eyed woman named Patricia who'd handled crisis management for Fortune 500 companies. "The narrative is getting away from us. If we don't control it, it will control us." "What are you suggesting?" Nia asked, her voice cold and professional. "A joint statement. Clarify the nature of your relationship with Mr. Bennett. Emphasize the foundation's independent financial structure. Maybe release some testimonials from families you've helped. Show that this is legitimate, not some vanity project or romance scam." Darius felt sick. Romance scam. As if what he and Nia had built, both professionally and personally, could be reduced to something so ugly and mercenary. "No," he said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. "No?" Patricia repeated. "Mr. Bennett, with all due respect, your reputation is being destroyed. The foundation's credibility is at stake. We need to let it blow over," Darius interrupted. "Release a simple statement saying the foundation's finances are completely transparent and available for audit, that our personal relationship is separate from our professional work, and that we won't be commenting further. Then we get back to work and let our actions speak for themselves." "That's not how crisis management works," Patricia argued. "You need to get ahead of the story, control the narrative." "I don't care about narratives. I care about helping people." Darius looked at Nia. "If we start performing for cameras, start justifying our choices to strangers, we lose what makes this special. We become what they're accusing us of being, people more concerned with appearance than substance." Nia was quiet for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to the video screen. "Thank you, Patricia. Darius is right. We'll release a brief statement and then we're done engaging. If people want to believe lies, that's their choice. We have work to do." Patricia looked like she wanted to argue further, but Nia's tone made it clear the discussion was over. After the call ended, after the lawyers and PR people had disconnected, Darius and Nia sat alone in the conference room. "That was brave," she said softly, "and possibly stupid, but definitely brave. I'm tired of being afraid of what people think. We've done nothing wrong. We found each other in impossible circumstances. We fell in love. We're building something meaningful together. Why should we apologize for that? Because the world doesn't like complicated stories. They want heroes and villains, not real people making messy, imperfect choices. Then they don't have to watch our story." Darius stood, suddenly exhausted. "I need to get home to Malik, make sure he's really okay." Nia caught his hand as he passed. "Are we okay? You and me?" He looked down at her, this brilliant woman who'd turned his world upside down, who'd given him purpose and partnership and love when he'd thought he'd never have those things again. Yeah, we're okay, better than okay. Even with all this chaos, especially with the chaos, because chaos means we're doing something that matters. Easy things don't get attacked. She pulled him down for a kiss, fierce and claiming, I love you. Don't forget that when things get ugly. I won't. I love you too. The media storm continued for another week, with competing narratives about their relationship plastered across gossip sites and social media. Some portrayed Darius as the opportunist, others painted Nia as a wealthy woman trying to buy affection. A few outlets managed to find the actual story, two people who'd found each other through tragedy and were trying to build something good, but those voices were drowned out by the sensationalism. Through it all, they kept working. The Cleveland and Atlanta offices were thriving, helping families escape the same crises Darius had barely survived himself. Applications for new satellite locations poured in from cities across the country. The foundation's impact was undeniable, quantifiable, real, but the personal cost was mounting. Malik withdrew, becoming quieter, more anxious about school. Amara's nightmares returned, triggered by the stress she sensed in her mother despite Nia's efforts to shield her. And Darius found himself second-guessing everything, wondering if his relationship with Nia was worth the pain it was causing their children. He was sitting on his porch one evening, wrestling with these doubts, when an unfamiliar car pulled up. A black woman in her 60s emerged, walking with the careful dignity of someone who'd lived through hard times and come out stronger. "Mr. Bennett," she called, "I'm sorry to disturb you. My name is Eleanor Williams. You helped my daughter Maria and her son Connor a few months back. The mortgage situation?" Darius stood, recognizing the name. "Of course. How are they doing?" "Better. So much better. Connor had his surgery. Maria's back on her feet financially. We're not facing foreclosure anymore." Eleanor climbed the porch steps. "I've been watching all this mess on the news, all these people saying terrible things about you, and I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I needed you to know that what you did for my family, it saved us, literally saved us, and I know we're not the only ones." "Thank you, Mrs. Williams. That means a lot right now." "I brought something." Eleanor pulled out her phone, showing him a social media page. "I started this group, Families Who've Been Helped by Second Chances. We're sharing our stories, the real ones, not the garbage those reporters are making up. We're over 300 members now and growing every day." Darius scrolled through the posts, reading testimonial after testimonial from people whose lives had been changed by the foundation's work. Single mothers who'd kept their apartments, fathers who'd gotten to work despite broken-down cars, families who'd paid off crushing medical debt. Each story was different, but they all shared one common thread: gratitude for being treated with dignity during their darkest moments. "This is incredible," Darius said, his throat tight. "This is the truth. And truth matters, Mr. Bennett. Don't let those vultures make you forget that." Eleanor squeezed his hand. "You and Ms. Hayes, you're doing something beautiful. Don't let the world's ugliness steal your joy." After she left, Darius sat on the porch with his phone, reading through the testimonials until his vision blurred with tears. These were the voices that mattered, not tabloid reporters or anonymous internet trolls, but real people whose lives had been touched by compassion and practical help. He called Nia. "Have you seen the social media group, the one Eleanor Williams started?" "I'm looking at it right now." Her voice was thick with emotion. "Darius, there are over 500 members now. They're organizing, creating their own advocacy network, planning to testify about the foundation's impact if anyone tries to question its legitimacy. We didn't do this alone. We couldn't have. No, but we started it. We created the space for this kind of community to exist." Nia paused. "I've been thinking about what you said, about letting our actions speak for themselves. You were right. These testimonials, these families supporting each other, this is worth more than any PR campaign. So we keep going, keep building? We keep going, together." By June, the media attention had largely moved on to newer scandals, leaving Darius and Nia to return to some semblance of normalcy. The foundation announced plans to open 10 new locations by year's end, funded by a combination of Nia's personal wealth and donations from supporters who'd been moved by the family's testimonials. Malik's 7th birthday arrived, and they celebrated with a party at Nia's house, the first time both families had gathered socially since the media storm. Watching the kids run through the yard, laughing and playing without the weight of public scrutiny, Darius felt something loosen in his chest. "They're resilient," Nia said, appearing at his elbow with a glass of lemonade. "More than we give them credit for." "They shouldn't have to be. They're just kids." "I know, but we can't protect them from everything. All we can do is love them, support them, and teach them how to handle the hard stuff when it comes." Darius pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You're just now noticing." She smiled up at him. "Speaking of wisdom, I've been thinking about something about us." "Should I be worried?" "Maybe. Maybe not." Nia took a breath. "I want you to move in with me. You and Malik. Not just for convenience, but because I want us to be a real family. Because separate houses feel like we're hedging our bets, keeping one foot out the door in case things go wrong." Darius's heart hammered. "That's a big step." "I know, and if you're not ready, that's okay. But I am. I'm ready to commit fully, to build a life together without reservations or backup plans." Her eyes searched his. "I love you. I love Malik. I want to wake up with you every morning and figure out this parenting thing together and build something permanent. What do you think?" What did he think? Darius looked at the house behind them, the home Nia had renovated partly with her own hands, the place where Amara finally felt safe again. He thought about his small house across town, filled with memories of Jasmine, but also starting to feel cramped, limiting. He thought about Malik, who spent more time at Nia's house than his own these days, who'd started calling Amara his sister without anyone telling him to. He thought about waking up alone, eating breakfast in silence, going through the motions of a life that felt increasingly hollow when Nia wasn't in it. "I think, yes," he said quietly. "I think I want that too. Want us to be a real family, not just people dating who happen to have kids." Nia's smile was radiant. "Yeah? Yeah. But we do it right. We tell the kids together, make sure they're okay with it. We take our time with the logistics, don't rush just because we're excited." "Agreed. But Darius?" She kissed him softly. "We're really doing this. Building a life together. Building a family. We're really doing it." They told the kids that evening, after cake and presents, sitting them down in the living room with nervous energy thrumming between them. "So," Nia began, glancing at Darius for support, "you know how Darius and I have been dating for a while now?" Malik nodded. Amara watched with wide, curious eyes. "Well, we've been talking, and we think we'd like to all live together, in this house, as a family." Nia rushed on before either child could react. "But only if you're both comfortable with it. This is your home too, Amara, and Malik, this would become your home. We want to know how you feel." Malik looked at Amara. Amara looked at Malik. Some silent communication passed between them, the kind only children who'd bonded through shared trauma could have. "Can I have my own room?" Malik asked finally. "Or do I have to share with Amara?" "You'd each have your own room," Darius confirmed. "The house is big enough. And I can bring all my stuff, my Legos and my books and my poster of the solar system? All of it." Malik considered this, then turned to Amara. "Would it be weird, living together?" "I don't think so," Amara said thoughtfully. "We already kind of live together on weekends. This would just be all the time." "But we'd still have our own stuff? Our own space when we need it?" "Of course," Nia assured them. "Just because we're living together doesn't mean you have to be together every second. Families need space too." "Okay." Malik looked at his father. "Then I think it's a good idea. Can we still do our Saturday morning pancakes, just us?" Darius felt his eyes burning. "Always, bud. Some traditions don't change." "Then I'm in." Malik turned to Amara. "You?" "I'm in too. But can we paint my room? I want it to be different from before, when the bad stuff happened." "We can paint it any color you want," Nia promised, pulling her daughter close. And just like that, it was decided. Two broken families merging into something new, something neither of them had planned but both desperately needed. The move happened over the course of a month. Darius kept his house initially, renting it to a young teacher who'd just started at Malik's school and needed affordable housing. It felt right, passing it on to someone who'd appreciate it, who'd fill it with new memories while the old ones stayed safely tucked in Darius's heart. Malik's room was painted a deep blue with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Amara chose lavender with white trim, her window seat piled high with cushions and books. They established routines, family dinners, weekend movie nights, alternating who chose the activities. It wasn't always smooth. Malik and Amara fought over bathroom time, over whose turn it was to pick the TV show, over typical sibling stuff that drove both parents crazy. But they also defended each other fiercely at school, built elaborate fort systems that took over the living room, shared secrets and dreams and fears in the darkness after bedtime. One night, Darius found them both in Amara's room, Malik sleeping on the floor beside her bed while Amara slept above. When he gently tried to move Malik to his own room, Amara woke up. "He was having a nightmare," she whispered, "about losing you. So I told him he could stay here, where it's safe." Darius's throat closed up. "That was kind of you, sweetheart." "He did it for me when I was scared. When I first got here, remember? He shared his bed and his dinosaur." She yawned. "We take care of each other. That's what families do." "Yeah, baby girl, that's exactly what families do." Work at the foundation intensified as they prepared for the major expansion. Darius hired a deputy director to handle day-to-day operations in Millbrook, freeing him to travel to new locations and train staff. Nia restructured Haven Technologies' charitable giving to create a sustainable funding model for the foundation, ensuring it wouldn't collapse if something happened to her personally. "I won't make the same mistake twice," she told him one evening as they reviewed financial projections. "David died without proper contingency plans in place. If something happens to me, I want to make sure Amara is protected and the foundation can continue its work." "Nothing's going to happen to you." "You don't know that. None of us know what's coming." Nia set down her pen, looking at him seriously. "Which is why I need to ask you something. If something did happen to me, would you be willing to be Amara's guardian, legally?" Darius felt the weight of the question settle over him. "You want me to raise Amara if you die?" "I want someone who loves her, who sees her as more than just an obligation or a trust fund. Someone who'd put her needs first and help her heal and let her be a kid." Nia's voice wavered. "I've set up trusts, hired lawyers, done all the legal stuff, but none of that matters if the person raising her doesn't genuinely care." "You do. I know you do." "Of course I do. She's family, Nia. I love her like she's my own." "Then you'll do it? You'll be her legal guardian if the worst happens?" "Yeah, I'll do it. But nothing's going to happen, okay? You're going to be around to drive her crazy when she's a teenager and embarrass her in front of her prom date and cry at her college graduation." Nia laughed through tears. "I hope so, but thank you for agreeing. It means everything." They filed the paperwork that week, making it official. Darius Bennett, former mechanic, single father, would become legal guardian to Amara Hayes in the event of Nia's death or incapacitation. It felt surreal, signing documents that carried such weight, but also right. They were building a real family with all the legal and emotional bonds that entailed. Summer deepened into fall. The foundation opened 12 new locations, exceeding their initial goals. Stories of families helped by second chances continued to surface, creating a groundswell of support that transcended the earlier media skepticism. Local governments began partnering with them, recognizing the foundation as a model for addressing poverty without the stigma and bureaucracy of traditional welfare programs. Darius was invited to speak at conferences, to share his philosophy of dignity-based assistance with nonprofit leaders and government officials. He hated public speaking, hated being in the spotlight, but he forced himself to do it because the message mattered more than his comfort. At a conference in Chicago, a woman approached him during the reception. She was young, maybe late 20s, and she looked vaguely familiar, though he couldn't place why. "Mr. Bennett, I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Sarah Chen, Martin Chen's daughter." Darius felt his blood run cold. Martin Chen, the man who'd kidnapped Amara, who'd killed her nanny, who'd destroyed so many lives in pursuit of corporate secrets and profit. I'm not here to defend my father, Sarah said quickly, seeing his expression. What he did was unforgivable, monstrous. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For not letting what he did define the rest of your life. For not becoming bitter or angry or letting that darkness consume you. Sarah's eyes were damp. I've been watching what you and Ms. Hayes built. The foundation, the family, the hope. You took the worst thing that could happen and turned it into something beautiful. That takes courage I don't have. I had help, Darius said quietly. I couldn't have done it alone. None of us can. That's the point, isn't it? We need each other. We need people who choose kindness even when they have every reason to choose anger. She pulled an envelope from her purse. This is a donation to the foundation. It's not much, but I want to be part of building something good instead of just carrying the shame of what my father destroyed. Darius took the envelope, humbled. You're not responsible for his choices. I know, but I can be responsible for mine, Sarah smiled tremulously. Thank you, Mr. Bennett, for reminding people like me that we get to decide who we become, regardless of where we came from. After she walked away, Darius opened the envelope. The check inside was for $50,000, a significant amount even by foundation standards. But more than the money, it was the gesture. A daughter refusing to be defined by her father's sins, choosing instead to build something better. He called Nia that night, told her about the encounter. That's incredible, she said softly. And it's exactly what we hoped for, isn't it? That pain and trauma don't have to be the end of the story. That people can choose different paths. Did you choose this, or did it choose you? Both, maybe. I chose to stop running from grief. I chose to trust you. I chose to build instead of hiding. Nia paused. But you chose me too. You chose to stop when you saw Amara on that highway. Everything else came from that one choice. Best choice I ever made. Second best, she corrected. The best choice you made was saying yes when I asked you to run the foundation. Everything else grew from that. I don't know, kissing you that first time at Rosie's? That was a pretty great choice too. Nia laughed, the sound warming him even across the miles. Come home soon. I miss you. Tomorrow night. And Nia, I love you. I love you too. So much. Darius lay in his hotel room thinking about home. Not his old house with its memories of Jasmine, but the sprawling ranch in Millbrook where Nia and the kids waited. Where family dinners and movie nights and ordinary moments created a life he'd never imagined having. A year ago, he'd been surviving, working, raising Malik, going through the motions. Now he was living, building, creating ripples of change that extended far beyond his small corner of Oklahoma. All because one afternoon, on a scorching highway, he'd made the choice to stop, to see a child who needed help, to do the right thing even when it was inconvenient and potentially dangerous. That choice had changed everything, and he wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. 2 years after that scorching afternoon on Highway 77, Darius stood in the Foundation's original headquarters, the converted warehouse that had once seemed impossibly ambitious, watching as local news cameras set up for an interview. The space had transformed beyond recognition. What had started as a single office now housed a full staff of 23 people, with conference rooms and client intake areas and a community gathering space where families could connect with resources and each other. Eleanor Williams's grassroots support group had evolved into a formal advocacy network representing over 3,000 families across 15 states. The foundation now operated in 32 cities, helping an average of 200 families per week escape the kind of crises that could spiral into homelessness, job loss, or worse. But the interview wasn't about statistics or success metrics. It was about something more personal. Mr. Bennett, the reporter began, a young woman named Jessica Martinez, who'd grown up in Millbrook and specifically requested this assignment. In 3 days, you're getting married to Nia Hayes, the woman whose daughter you rescued. Some people might say this story is too perfect, too much like a fairy tale. What would you say to them? Darius smiled, thinking about the question. I'd say they're right that it sounds like a fairy tale, but fairy tales don't include panic attacks at 2 a.m. when your daughter has nightmares about being kidnapped. They don't include arguments over foundation budgets, or the terror of blending 2 families, or the very real grief we both still carry for the people we lost. He paused, choosing his words carefully. What Nia and I have isn't perfect. It's real. It's built on shared trauma and mutual respect and a commitment to building something meaningful together. That's messier than any fairy tale, but it's also more lasting. And the foundation? How does that fit into your relationship? The foundation is the relationship, in a lot of ways. It's our shared mission, our common ground. We both understand what it's like to need help and not have it, to feel invisible and forgotten. We built second chances to make sure other families don't experience that same isolation. Jessica consulted her notes. The foundation has been criticized by some conservative commentators as enabling dependency, undermining personal responsibility. How do you respond to that? Darius had heard this criticism before, had learned not to let it ignite his anger. I'd invite those commentators to meet Maria Gonzalez, who worked 60-hour weeks at a nursing home but couldn't afford an $1,800 transmission repair. Or Claire Davidson, who did everything right her whole life and still faced foreclosure after her husband died. These aren't people looking for handouts. They're people who need a bridge over a temporary gap, a chance to catch their breath before the water closes over their heads. He leaned forward. Personal responsibility matters, but so does community responsibility. So does recognizing that we're all one catastrophe away from needing help, and there's no shame in that. The interview continued for another 20 minutes, covering the foundation's expansion plans, the upcoming wedding, and what Darius hoped to accomplish in the next 5 years. When it finally wrapped, he felt drained but satisfied. The message had gotten through, unfiltered and honest. Nia was waiting in his office, reviewing something on her laptop, looking up when he entered. How'd it go? Good, I think. She asked tough questions but fair ones. Darius collapsed into the chair beside her. 3 more days until I make an honest woman out of you. I was already honest. You're just making it official. She closed the laptop, giving him her full attention. Are you nervous? Terrified? Excited? All of it. He took her hand. You? Same. I keep thinking about David, about how he should be here to walk Amara down the aisle when she's older, how he'd have loved watching her grow up. Nia's voice caught. I feel guilty sometimes for being happy when he's gone. He'd want you to be happy. You know that. Intellectually? Yes. Emotionally? She shrugged. It's complicated, but I'm working on it. My therapist says survivor's guilt is normal, that it doesn't mean I love you less or David more. It just means I'm human. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, fingers intertwined, both processing the enormity of what was coming. A wedding, a legal blending of families, a public declaration that they were choosing each other, choosing this life, despite all the reasons it might be easier to walk away. Did I tell you Malik asked me something yesterday? Darius said finally. What? He wanted to know if he could call you Mom. Not all the time, just sometimes, when it feels right. Darius felt his throat tighten. I told him that was between you and him, that I couldn't make that decision. Nia's eyes filled with tears. What did you tell him I'd say? That you'd probably be honored, but that there's no pressure, no expectation. Jasmine will always be his mom, and nobody's trying to replace her. She'll always be his mom, Nia agreed, but maybe I could be something else, something additional, if he wants that. I think he does. I think he's been wanting it for a while, but didn't know if it was okay to ask. Nia wiped her eyes. I should talk to him, before the wedding. Make sure he knows it's okay, whatever he wants to call me. That evening, while Darius helped Amara with her homework and attempted to understand third-grade math that seemed unnecessarily complicated, Nia took Malik out to the porch. Through the window, Darius could see them sitting on the swing, talking quietly, Malik's small hand in Nia's larger one. What are they talking about? Amara asked, looking up from her worksheet. Grown-up stuff, family stuff. Are they talking about the wedding? Because I have opinions about the flowers. I think we need more purple. I think you've already expressed that opinion. Multiple times. Amara grinned, unrepentant. I'm practicing being assertive. My therapist says it's good to express what I want instead of being scared all the time. Darius set down his pencil, giving her his full attention. Are you still scared? About what happened? She considered the question seriously. This 8-year-old who'd been through more trauma than most adults could imagine. Sometimes, when it's dark, or when Mama's late coming home, or when I hear sirens, but not as much as before. And when I get scared, I remember I have you and Mama and Malik. I'm not alone anymore. You're never alone. Not ever. I know. She went back to her math problem, then added casually, I'm glad you're marrying Mama. You make her laugh, and she didn't laugh much before. After Daddy died, she was sad all the time. But now she's happy sad. Like she remembers the sad parts, but she has happy parts too. Out of the mouths of children, Darius thought. Happy sad. That perfectly captured what they were all learning to navigate, holding grief and joy simultaneously, honoring the past while building the future. When Malik and Nia came back inside, Malik's eyes were red, but his smile was genuine. He walked straight to Darius and climbed into his lap, even though he was really getting too big for it. Nia said, I can call her whatever feels right, Malik announced. So sometimes I might say Mom, and sometimes I might say Nia, and sometimes I might make up a weird nickname, and it's all okay. Sounds perfect to me. And she said when you get married, she's not trying to replace my real mom. She's just adding more love to our family. Like how Amara didn't replace me, she just became my sister. Exactly like that. Malik snuggled closer. I think I'm going to call her Mom because Amara calls you Darius Dad sometimes. And that's not confusing, so Mom can be not confusing too. Nia had to leave the room, and Darius heard her in the kitchen, crying quietly. He understood. These moments of children claiming you, choosing you, accepting you into their hearts, they were overwhelming in the best possible way. The wedding took place on a perfect October afternoon in the backyard of their home, with 75 guests including foundation staff, families they'd helped, old friends from Millbrook, and a handful of Nia's tech industry colleagues who'd made the trip from New York and San Francisco. The ceremony was simple. No celebrity pastor or elaborate production, just an officiant who'd known Darius since childhood and vows they'd written themselves. Malik served as Darius's best man, standing proud in his miniature suit. Amara was Nia's maid of honor, wearing a purple dress that she'd picked out herself and carrying a bouquet of wildflowers that matched the ones woven through her carefully braided hair. When it came time for vows, Darius's hand shook as he held Nia's, looking into eyes that had become as familiar as his own reflection. I wasn't looking for you, he began, his voice carrying across the quiet crowd. I thought that part of my life was over. I thought I'd had my chance at love, at family, at happiness, and I was grateful for what I'd been given, even though it ended too soon. Then one afternoon, I saw a little girl who needed help, and I made a choice. I pulled over, and that choice led me to you. He paused, blinking back tears. You gave me back my sense of purpose. You showed me that grief doesn't have to be the end of the story, that broken people can build beautiful things together. You trusted me with your daughter, with your heart, with your dreams. And I promised to spend the rest of my life honoring that trust, protecting that heart, building those dreams together. Nia's tears were flowing freely now, but her voice was steady when she spoke. I came to Millbrook looking for my daughter. I found her, but I found so much more. I found someone who reminded me what really matters, not money or power or success, but compassion and integrity and showing up for people who need you. She squeezed his hands. You saved Amara's life, but you also saved mine. You gave me permission to be human again, to make mistakes, to build something real instead of perfect. You taught me that family isn't something you're born into. It's something you choose, something you create every day through small acts of love and patience and forgiveness. Her voice broke. I choose you, Darius, today and every day. I choose this life, this family, this beautiful, messy, complicated reality we're building together. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd when the officiant pronounced them married. Darius kissed his wife, feeling like his heart might actually explode from the pressure of so much joy contained in one human chest. The reception was held under strings of lights in the backyard, with food from Rosie's diner and a playlist that Malik and Amara had spent weeks creating. Darius danced with Nia, with Amara, with Eleanor Williams, who'd become like a mother to them both. Nia danced with Malik, who stepped on her toes repeatedly but made her laugh until she cried. As the sun set and his party continued, Darius found himself standing at the edge of the celebration, watching. This was his life now, this noise and joy and community. These people who'd rallied around them, supported them, believed in what they were building. Agent Morrison approached, holding a glass of champagne. She'd become a friend over the past 2 years, checking in periodically to see how Amara was healing. Hell of a journey from that first day, huh? I never could have imagined this. Any of it. You know what I remember most about that day? When you insisted on staying with Amara at your house instead of bringing her to the police station. You said she needed to feel safe more than we needed to process evidence. Morrison smiled. That's when I knew you were different. Most people would have handed her off the second we arrived, washed their hands of the responsibility. But you saw a scared kid who needed stability, and you provided it even when it was inconvenient. I just did what felt right. That's my point. Your instinct was to protect and comfort. That's rare. She raised her glass. To doing what feels right, even when it's hard. They toasted, and Darius felt the weight of the moment, how far they'd all come, how much had changed, how one decision on a highway had rippled outward to touch hundreds of lives. The Foundation's second anniversary gala took place 3 months after the wedding, a black tie fundraiser at a hotel in Oklahoma City. Darius hated wearing a tuxedo, but Nia looked stunning in a midnight blue gown, and watching her work the room, charming donors, sharing stories of families helped, painting a vision of what they could accomplish with expanded resources, he felt a swell of pride. They'd helped over 2,000 families in 2 years. The number still staggered him. During the program, they showed a video featuring testimonials from people whose lives had been changed by second chances. Maria Gonzalez spoke about keeping her job in her apartment. Claire Davidson described sending her son to college without crushing debt. A man named Robert Torres explained how emergency car repairs had allowed him to continue treatment for his cancer, to keep fighting when everything else was falling apart. But the moment that broke everyone was when Amara appeared on screen, older now but still recognizably the little girl who'd stumbled down a highway 2 years earlier. "My name is Amara Hayes," she said, her voice clear and strong. 2 years ago, a bad man took me from my home. I was really scared. I thought I'd never see my mama again." She paused, and the camera showed a photo of her bloody feet on that first day. "Then Darius found me. He didn't know who I was or where I came from. He just saw someone who needed help, and he stopped. He took care of me. He let me stay in his house and sleep in his son's bed and eat pancakes for breakfast. He made me feel safe when nothing else did." The screen shifted to show photos of their blended family. Malik and Amara building Legos, Darius and Nia painting the house, all 4 of them on the porch at sunset. "Now Darius is my dad," Amara continued, "and Malik is my brother. And we're a family because Darius chose to help someone he didn't even know. That's what Second Chances does. It helps people who need it, not because they deserve it or earned it, but just because they're human, and humans should take care of each other." She smiled directly at the camera. "If you want to help people the way Darius helped me, you can donate tonight. Every dollar helps another family stay together, stay safe, stay hopeful. Thank you." The ballroom erupted in applause, and Darius had to excuse himself to the lobby because he was crying too hard to maintain composure. Nia found him there a few minutes later, makeup streaked but smiling. "Did you know she was going to say that? About me being her dad?" "She asked if she could. I said it was up to her." Nia took his hands. "You are her dad, Darius, in every way that matters. You've shown up for her, protected her, loved her unconditionally. That's what makes someone a parent." "I never expected this. Any of this. Life's funny that way. We make plans, and the universe laughs and gives us something completely different, something better, if we're brave enough to accept it." The gala raised over $3 million, more than doubling their projected budget for the next year. It allowed them to accelerate expansion plans, opening satellite offices in 12 additional cities and launching a pilot program for job training and placement services. But the real victory wasn't the money. It was the community they'd built, the network of people committed to helping each other, to refusing to let anyone fall through the cracks. Spring arrived again, marking 3 years since that day on Highway 77. Darius woke early, slipping out of bed without waking Nia, and drove to his old house, the one he'd rented to the young teacher, who'd since bought it and turned the backyard into a garden that Jasmine would have loved. He sat in the truck across the street, remembering Jasmine's laugh, her determination during treatment, the way she'd made him promise not to give up on life after she was gone, to find happiness again, to give Malik a full life. "I kept my promise," he said quietly to the ghost of her memory. "I didn't give up. I found Nia, and she's wonderful, and I love her, and I think you'd like her. She makes me laugh, and she challenges me, and she loves Malik like he's her own." His voice cracked. "I hope that's okay. I hope you're not angry that I moved on, that I built a new life." The morning was quiet except for birdsong, and Darius felt a peace settle over him. Jasmine would never have wanted him to spend his life in mourning. She'd always been too practical, too focused on the living to expect eternal devotion to the dead. His phone buzzed. A text from Nia. "Where are you?" "Saying goodbye to some ghosts. Be home soon. Take your time. I love you. Love you too." He drove back to the house, his real home now, the one full of noise and life, and the beautiful chaos of two kids and a woman who'd become his whole world. Malik and Amara were making breakfast, arguing good-naturedly about whether chocolate chips belonged in pancakes, while Naya refereed from the kitchen table, still in her pajamas, coffee cup in hand. She looked up when he entered, and her smile was everything. "Welcome home, I missed you, I love you." All conveyed in a single glance. "Dad," Malik called, "tell Amara that chocolate chips are a vegetable." "They're candy," Amar insisted. "Tell him, Darius, Dad." "I think," Darius said carefully, hanging his jacket on the hook by the door, "that this is a debate that requires democratic process. Let's vote." The morning dissolved into pancakes and laughter and the ordinary magic of family breakfast. Later, they'd go to the foundation office, where 100 applications waited for review. They'd make decisions that would change lives, help families escape the edge of crisis, build bridges over impossible gaps. But right now, in this moment, they were just 4 people who'd found each other through tragedy and chosen to build something beautiful from the wreckage. The following autumn, the foundation celebrated its 5th anniversary with a return to Millbrook for a community celebration rather than a fancy gala. The converted warehouse was packed with current and former clients, volunteers, staff members, and local officials. The mayor presented Darius and Nia with a key to the city, a symbolic gesture that made them both laugh, even as they accepted it graciously. But the real highlight came when Eleanor Williams took the stage, her advocacy network now representing over 15,000 families across 30 states. "5 years ago," Eleanor began, "my daughter was facing foreclosure. We were drowning in medical debt, about to lose everything we'd worked for our whole lives. Then Darius Bennett walked into our lives with his quiet dignity and his simple philosophy that everyone deserves help without judgment, that crisis doesn't equal failure, that we're all in this together." She paused, looking directly at Darius and Nia in the front row. "You didn't just save my family's home. You saved my faith in humanity. You showed me that there are still people who care, who act, who refuse to let their neighbors suffer when help is possible." She pulled out a folder, holding it up. "This contains letters from over 5,000 families who've been helped by second chances. Every single one has a story of crisis averted, dignity preserved, hope restored. These aren't statistics. They're lives. Real people who can pay their rent, keep their jobs, feed their children, stay together because you two decided that compassion matters more than profit." The room erupted in applause, and Darius had to stand, had to acknowledge the weight of what they'd built together. Beside him, Nia was crying, and Malik and Amara, now 10 and 11, were beaming with pride. "We couldn't have done this alone," Darius said when the noise finally died down. "Every person in this room contributed something: time, money, expertise, compassion. This foundation exists because a community decided that taking care of each other matters, that nobody should have to face crisis alone, that we're stronger together than we could ever be apart." He looked at Naya, at the woman who'd crashed into his life in the most impossible way and stayed to build something beautiful. 5 years ago, I pulled over on a highway because I saw someone who needed help. I had no idea that choice would lead here, to all of you, to this movement, To a family I never expected but can't imagine living without. His voice grew thick. Thank you for trusting us with your stories, your struggles, your hope. Thank you for believing that things can get better, that help exists, that you deserve dignity and respect even in your darkest moments. And thank you for building this with us. The celebration continued late into the night, but eventually they returned home. The four of them piled into the car, exhausted and happy. Malik fell asleep against Amar's shoulder in the back seat. The radio played something soft and forgettable. Naya reached over and took Darius's hand. Can you believe we've been doing this for 5 years? Feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at once. I keep thinking about that day, when you called 911 and the dispatcher recognized Amar's description. Everything could have gone so differently. But it didn't. We got the ending we got. The beginning, Naya corrected, not the ending. We're still writing this story. Darius glanced in the rearview mirror at the two kids sleeping peacefully, at the family they'd created from impossible circumstances. Yeah, we are. And I can't wait to see what comes next. Years continued to pass, marked by milestones both ordinary and extraordinary. Malik graduated middle school, then high school, growing into a thoughtful young man who wanted to study social work and continue the Foundation's mission. Amara discovered a passion for advocacy, speaking at conferences about childhood trauma and resilience, using her story to help others heal. The Foundation grew to serve all 50 states, helping over 20,000 families annually. But it never lost the personal touch, the dignity-first philosophy that Darius had insisted on from the beginning. Every client was a person, not a case number. Every crisis was treated with compassion and respect. Darius and Nia grew older together, their love deepening into something solid and unshakable. They still had hard days, moments when grief ambushed them or stress threatened to fracture their peace. But they'd learned to weather those storms together, to communicate through conflict, to choose each other over and over again. On a warm July afternoon, 15 years after that fateful day on Highway 77, Darius found himself back at the original Foundation headquarters. It had been preserved as a museum of sorts, documenting the organization's history, showcasing stories of families helped, honoring the journey from one small office to a nationwide network. He stood in front of a photo from that first day, him and Nia, exhausted and hopeful, standing in front of the newly renovated warehouse with matching smiles. They'd been so young then, so uncertain about what they were building. Dad? Darius turned to find Malik, now 21 and preparing to start graduate school, babies. We were terrified is what we babies. We were terrified is what we were. But you did it anyway, built something that mattered. We had help. Couldn't have done it alone. Malik was quiet for a moment, then said, I've been thinking about something. About that day you found Amara. What made you stop? Hundreds of people must have driven past her. What made you different? Darius considered the question seriously. It was something he'd asked himself countless times over the years. I think about your mom, about Jasmine. When she was sick, when we needed help, people showed up. They brought food. They watched you. They sat with her when I had to work. They taught me that community isn't just a word. It's a verb. It's action. It's choosing to see people who need help and doing something about it. He paused. When I saw Amar on that highway, I saw someone who needed help. And because people had helped me when I needed it most, I couldn't drive past. It would have felt like betraying everything your mom taught me about being human. She'd be proud of you, of all of this. I hope so. I like to think she would be. Malik put his arm around his father's shoulders, both of them looking at the photo of younger, more uncertain versions of themselves. You know what I think? I think she brought you and Nia together, like she knew you'd need someone after she was gone, and she sent Amar to that highway at exactly the right time for you to find her. That's a nice thought, but you don't believe it. Darius smiled. I believe in cause and effect. I believe in choices and consequences. I believe that I made a choice to stop, and that choice led to other choices, and all those choices together created this life. He looked at his son. But I also believe that love doesn't end when someone dies. That the lessons Jasmine taught me, the love she gave me, they live on in how I treat other people. So in that sense, yeah, maybe she did bring us together by teaching me how to be someone who stops, who helps, who cares. They stood together in the quiet museum, surrounded by evidence of lives changed and families helped, and a movement built on the simple idea that everyone deserves dignity and compassion in their time of need. That evening, the whole family gathered for dinner at the house. Malik and Amara, Darius and Nia, Eleanor Williams, who'd become like a mother to them all, and a handful of foundation staff who'd become extended family. The conversation flowed easily, mixing nostalgia with plans for the future, honoring the past while embracing the present. After dinner, while others cleaned up, Darius and Nia slipped away to the porch, their favorite spot for quiet conversation. The sun was setting, painting the Oklahoma sky in shades of orange and pink that never got old no matter how many times they witnessed it. "Happy?" Nia asked, leaning against him. "Happier than I ever thought possible." "Me too." She was quiet for a moment, then added, "Sometimes I still think about that day, about how close we came to a completely different ending. If you hadn't stopped, if you'd been even 5 minutes earlier or later, if you'd driven a different route, but I didn't. I was exactly where I needed to be, exactly when I needed to be there. Do you think it was fate, destiny, some grand plan?" Darius considered this. "I think it was a choice, a series of choices. I chose to stop. You chose to trust me. We chose to build the foundation, to explore our feelings, to blend our families. None of it was predetermined. It was all decisions we made, actions we took. And you'd make the same choices again? Every single one. Even the hard ones. Even the ones that hurt." He kissed the top of her head. "Especially the one where I said yes when you asked if I'd take a chance on us." Inside, through the window, they could hear Malik and Amara arguing about something, probably trivial, the way siblings did. Eleanor's laugh rang out, rich and warm. Music played from someone's phone, something upbeat and joyful. This was their life, built from tragedy and trauma, constructed with intention and love, filled with ordinary moments that somehow added up to something extraordinary. 15 years ago, Darius Bennett had been a widower barely surviving, working a job he tolerated, raising a son alone, convinced that the best parts of his life were behind him. Now he was a husband, a father to 2 remarkable kids, the director of a foundation that had helped over 250,000 families escape crisis, a man who'd learned that grief and joy could coexist, that broken things could be mended into something stronger than they'd ever been before. All because one afternoon, on a scorching highway, he'd seen a little girl who needed help. And he'd made the choice to stop. That single decision, that one moment of compassion, had changed everything. Not just for him, not just for Nia and Amara, but for thousands of families who'd been helped by the foundation, for communities that had learned to support each other, for a movement built on the simple truth that everyone deserves dignity in their time of need. Darius looked out at the land stretching beyond their property, at the sunset painting the sky in impossible colors, at the life he and Nia had built together from the ashes of their separate griefs. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For seeing something in me I didn't see in myself. For trusting me with your daughter, with your heart, with your dreams. For building this life with me." Nia turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes that still made his heart skip after all these years. "Thank you for stopping. For being brave enough to help a stranger. For being open to where that choice would lead. For loving us even when it was complicated and scary and uncertain. Best decision I ever made." "Second best," she corrected with a smile. "The best decision was saying yes when I asked you to marry me." "You didn't ask. I asked." "Details." She kissed him softly. "Either way, we chose each other. We chose this family. We chose to build something beautiful from terrible circumstances. And look what we created." They stood together as darkness fell and stars emerged, holding each other, listening to the sounds of their family inside, grateful for every choice that had led them here. One little girl on a highway, one man who chose to stop, one decision that changed everything, and a lifetime of love and purpose built on that single moment of compassion. The story didn't end with a wedding or an anniversary or any particular milestone. It continued in the daily acts of choosing each other, of helping families in crisis, of raising children who understood that kindness was strength and that community mattered more than individual success. It continued in Malik's decision to dedicate his career to social work, in Amara's advocacy for trauma survivors, in the thousands of families who found hope when they'd thought all hope was lost. It continued in every choice to stop when someone needed help, to see the humanity in strangers, to build bridges instead of walls. And it would continue long after Darius and Nia were gone, carried forward by the children they'd raised and the movement they'd started and the simple truth they'd proven over and over again. That one person choosing compassion could change the world. One decision at a time. One family at a time. One moment of courage at a time. The highway where it all began still stretched through the Oklahoma heat, carrying travelers toward unknown destinations. And somewhere, someone else would face a choice: to stop or to keep driving, to help or to look away, to be part of the solution or part of the problem. Darius hoped they'd choose to stop, because you never knew what that one choice might create, what lives it might save, what love it might lead to, what future it might build. All you could do was make the choice and trust that compassion, in the end, was always worth it. Always.